everyone, and welcome back to the Team JYCT podcast. I am,
Yay!
I guess I don't know what to call myself because this is my channel, but we're all kind of the equal hosts. I am your host, Raymond McNeil. Joining me as co-host, is the excellent Judgmental Critter.
That's me.
The always acerbic and very belated Kaiser Shonen.
You mean very busy? Okay, very busy, very busy.
We are all pressing the X on the controller for that one.
What do you mean? What did you think I was doing?
I don't know. Playing Galaga? Anyway. And the wonderful Twilight Guardian.
Hello, I'm here.
Today we are covering a video that was actually recommended by Kaiser, called The Sympathetic Strawman by a gentleman that goes by the name Loomar, or Loomar?
Let's go with Loomar.
Lulu. Let's just call him Lulu.
Now, I want to preface this. I know nothing about this guy. I know nothing about this video. I barely know anything about the subject matter, which is apparently John Walker, to some extent, from Falcon and
I
Winter
will
Soldier.
say.
Same.
Yeah, I will say, though, that... Okay, so I only know this guy from this video and a follow-up video that he did. Me and Pete actually watched it together because we were planning on having a little something in response to this video. But not the entire video isn't just about John Walker from the Winter Soldier, so I think we should be fine. There will be plenty of stuff to comment on as we go in, so I hope y'all will be interested. It relates the concept when he explains it will relate to certain things that we are familiar with.
Oh dear.
Oh,
Excited.
So just a bit of a news update for anyone that's interested before we get everything started. I put this post up on Twitter, but I'm about to get a copyright strike on my April Fool's video, my Fixing Ruby XJLA, because of the parody at the very end, utilizing the main theme, Cruel Angel's Thesis from Evangelion. I'm not entirely sure I'm being attacked by the actual copyright holder, but I'm assuming it is. I intend to fight this. I have emailed them. I expect to get a strike. I'm trying to remember, does a strike prevent you from streaming? Or is it 2 strikes that do that?
Ooh, I don't remember.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah, me neither. Like, plus, this is really weird because, like, I've seen, videos where that version of the song was played before, and I saw no strikes were made.
Well, here's the thing. The reason why what had happened is they copyright claimed me fairly, or I should say somewhat fairly. They copyright claimed, and they did it where the revenue was split. They did a split revenue claim, which a lot of people can do, and a lot of people do for covers of songs. However, I'm not just covering the song. One, it's a cover by different people. I'm doing a full-blown parody, which is just a flat-out exemption under fair use. So, of course, I'm like, hey, I want the full monetary gain from this. I'm going to counterclaim. And the process accelerated to the point they're like, yeah, no, we're just going to strike you. And that's where we're currently at, where they're apparently not satisfied with my answer. Downside to this, I'm going to get a strike on my channel, and I'm just going to have to appeal it. I'm going to have to actually fight this. I have emailed them. I've attempted to contact them. I've got nothing back. So, on the flip side of this, I do not believe they'll be able to claim this again. They cannot make this claim again. And if they try, it's going to just be they're never going to get a cent from this. It's just going to be fool's errand. They're not gaining from it. So, just wanted to let you guys know that if for whatever reason we're not streaming next week, well, it could be any number of reasons, honestly, but
we could do it on one of our channels.
True, we could.
There's mine, there's Kaiser's, there's Critter's.
Yeah.
None of us have any issues with our channels.
Currently.
I think I got in trouble like many years ago on my channel, but that was like well over 15 years ago by now. I'm pretty sure that's
coming
that
back.
doesn't matter anymore. That was when I was a teenager. I just wanted to upload this song so that I could show my friends, and it was hidden. Like, it wasn't meant to be like, oh, I'm gonna gain like money off of this. But no, because I sang the song myself, but like there was a full minute of just melody before the lyrics started. And then I guess the company that owned that song was just like, nah, you don't. And I'm like, don't hurt me, I'm a child. I'm only 16.
Rent into Holland.
I've gotten a strike once, and it was because it was my review for Studio Ghibli. And that was when I learned that Studio Ghibli really hates it when you do anything with any of their footage.
Yeah.
So now I don't get to talk about it, and that's sad.
Yeah, they're worse than Sunrise like that. Speaking of that, I haven't had any strikes on my channel. There have been a couple of videos that I have that are unfortunately demonetized because of some music that I use in it. For example, part 2 of my Renanor video, where I play a specific track from the Big O soundtrack. It was that when I made that joke about how r/Ruby Reddit went apeshit on Unicorn of War for being cautiously optimistic about Ice Queendom. It's a great song choice, but Sunrise was being Sunrise and demonetized my shit.
Music's tricky. I try to keep music clips like less than 4 seconds long to like really be careful with it.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe that was my mistake. It was a little bit longer than 4 seconds.
Well, at the same time, it looks like Katakawa has finally started like really cracking down on use of music from like Made in Abyss. I have a song that I really love from it called Swings and Roundabout, and for a little while I used it.
That one.
Yeah, it's a beautiful violin piece. I use it as the very outro to a lot of different reactions and videos, and now a lot of those videos are retroactively being copyright claimed and demonetized completely. So I've just been like, as they come, I'm just like, just mute this song, mute this song, mute this song. It's a shame, really. There's no harm, no foul. Ultimately, I haven't lost anything over it. There's no penalties going on. It's just I can't use that song going forward for anything. It's like that's
yeah. I'm so scared for my next Digimon video, and it's one of the reasons why I'm having trouble kind of starting it, because I don't know how I'm gonna work it going forward, because obviously like you can't have a Digimon video talking about Digimon Adventure without Butterfly.
Butterfly.
That's iconic.
That's like criminal. You can't do that at all.
Yeah, like you need to have Butterfly somewhere in your Digimon video when talking about the first season.
Maybe you can play the Megami 33 cover version?
Maybe.
Actually, if you can get like an 8-bit rendition, you might be able to do it.
I'm pretty sure that exists.
I think I have a MIDI.
On that.
I found an old website from the early to mid 2000s that have MIDIs. So I downloaded all of the songs from there.
Just play it backwards. No one knows.
Yeah, it's shit like this. It's things like this why I'm going to make a remastered version of my Bumblebee video, because that's demonetized too.
Oh no.
Well, but there's also like the other conflicting issue that's really, really bad. I remember this hit. Oh, who was it that it hit? There was some relatively sized YouTuber that basically had to quit doing YouTube because suddenly Japanese companies were coming after him, and they
totally not Mark.
It might have been. I know that like basically he commented inaccurately that they can still claim you under Japanese law, and there's no wiggle room around it when they claim you. So it's So basically, like you're not protected under fair use. You're only under American law, not under Japanese law. So there's something to that. And what they had done, they just like strike this channel basically back to back to back to back.
Yeah, Suede.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It was Suede.
Oh, Suede. Okay.
Poor
It
Suede.
Yeah.
Grand Darkfang says, the sympathetic strawman is what I would consider an apotheosis of bad writing. You've done such a poor job of making the protagonist as the hero that the villain looks better. Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
I
and
kinda
doesn't
got
that
that
sound familiar?
Ironwood?
All right. So is everyone ready to get into this video?
Very ready.
Yes.
Ready.
In media, there comes a time when the main characters are often paired alongside another individual, whether they be an ally or at least someone who isn't outright villainous towards them. The job of this strawman character, even when working alongside the protagonist towards the same end goal, is to stand against the main character's methods and actions. As the main protagonists are what the audience are supposed to be attached to, we are expected to see their views and methods as the correct response to the situation at hand, with the strawman character being in the wrong because their opinion is supposed to be wrong. But you see, sometimes the writers are so insistent that the main characters are just right that they make the characters make surface level arguments without really putting any thought or effort into it, with the story attempting to make their views the correct ones anyways.
Okay, so how are we feeling about all that so far?
That makes sense.
2019
Yeah, I
new
agree
guy
with
meme.
that almost wholeheartedly. I don't really have much of an issue with the exact wording or definition here. I think it fits just fine. Because again, go ahead.
I was going to say, Cape Morning pointed
Yeah,
out
no.
it's the 2019 new guy meme. Do you remember that? Everyone remember that?
Oh, yeah. Fucking
yep.
love the new
100%.
guy meme.
Yeah.
Dude, you make a meme that like completely backfires on you.
Well, it backfires
Yeah.
so much, people start looking into your past, and it turns out that like you've basically admitted to stealing art supplies because, you know, it's not like that shop needed the funds or whatever. They're running a shop. They have the money. It's like, the
Right.
fuck?
No,
the
that's
fuck
not
is
You
wrong
don't
with
know
you?
anything. Yay.
Right.
I hate that because it seems like all of the worst stuff that is happening today comes from Tumblr. Because I know that there was a big like theft group that was around Tumblr where they're like having competitions of who can steal the most stuff or who can steal the most expensive stuff on Tumblr and like showing it off to each other. And
Yeah,
then
you sure? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
and then all of a sudden it started getting more prevalent because it started breaking containment and now it's outside of Tumblr.
Okay,
but-
so are you sure you're talking about Tumblr and not Facebook?
I have nothing to do with Facebook, so I have no idea what goes on Facebook. It's been dead to me for like well over 10 years.
I was gonna say Tumblr and Twitter are typically accelerants of the internet, while like
Yeah.
Facebook and YouTube are typically downstream of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say,
is
like,
fair.
I just had a brilliant idea for a concept. You monetize the theft. You make a game show of it. And whoever doesn't get caught, like you probably have mechanisms in place to reimburse the places that get thefted from. But like, if you could somehow like turn it into a monetizable sport, there's something there. I think that'd actually be really fun. It'd be
Oh
like
my
a
God.
Metal Gear Solid type deal.
I know that that could backfire very easily because suddenly you'll
Oh,
have
yeah.
people who are going to start like practicing.
Yes.
Yeah. Late stage capitalism.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
the guy getting dragged out by the bouncers, like, man, you ruined my run. Oh.
This game is rigged.
Although it did remind me when I was thinking about that, it reminded me of those. There were like game shows a while back where like you would just run through a grocery store, or not grocery store, but like a department store, and like it was all about like just getting the most amount of items in your basket, and whatever you put in there, you got to keep. I know. What's who is Mr. Beast? He actually did that like himself like a few years ago. He actually recreated that kind of game show.
Oh, nice.
Whatever happened to those? I mean, I guess people.
I think they were losing money.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I would have to imagine that there was a loss of money on there.
Yeah.
Which is why if you make a sport about stealing, then it becomes even more tricky because you have to get out of the store with all that stuff. Like you have to get extra creative layers.
I can only think of one thing that's kind of like that. It's not a game show, but did you ever watch the Eric Andre show?
Yeah.
In like episode 1, he like puts on this like costume of a thief. And he crawls into like a restaurant and he just goes, "C'est la vie!" And he starts grabbing people's foods and plates and they just let him take it because they were weirded out by him and he actually stole their shit.
Like he's freaking Lupin.
Yeah, Eric
So
Andre's
funny.
fun.
Yeah, he's always been great.
Bird up. Teddy Bear Paladin says, Scholar Fluff Force, fear is a part of a healthy mind, is it not? And yet fear without hope is despair, and hope without fear is to ground it. Is that not hubris? Question for an old Teddy, I suppose.
Yay.
These are some of the highlights of the streams for me.
Absolutely.
They are.
Each of these like tell a story. Dude, these sounds like so in Dark Souls, whenever you pick up like a specific weapon or like
it's an item
there's always,
description
like,
in
a
Dark
history.
Souls.
Yeah, there's an item description.
We're
or history
getting the
behind
deep,
them. The Nier series also does this. This sounds something like that.
the deep intertwined lore of the Teddy Bear Paladin turned into a webcomic. All right.
There were two things that I was gonna say. I think I forgot one. But I'm just gonna say the one that I do remember. That was gonna be Wish. You know what would have been a better celebration of the 100 years of Disney making a Kingdom Hearts movie instead?
Bro. Also, okay, the reason why she mentioned that is because some people in chat are mentioning like their own sympathetic straw men, straw people.
And I remember the second one.
That like they count the villain from Wishes 1 as well as Jacob Kane from Batwoman and Ironwood, obviously.
Oh my god, yeah, Jacob Kane from Batwoman, definitely. I mean,
yeah, that dude was done
I was gonna say, like, any CW show, you're going to start running into that.
CW. Goofies.
For the Eureka 7 franchise, would you say that both the Scub Coral and Dewey would be considered those?
Wait, what?
Okay, the Scub Coral is actually the sympathetic Strawman villain.
Yes.
Especially in AO. And the franchise tries to make it so that Dewey was right all along. So they're trying to make the sympathetic Strawman from the first season.
No.
Yeah. Oh
no.
Kaiser, you gotta subject yourself to the other stuff in Eureka 7. I gotta know your thoughts on it.
Okay,
I feel like I'm playing an extreme version of The Floor is Lava, but it's me and the lava is you all talking about Eureka 7, and it's getting closer and closer, and I'm running out of space.
Look, Critter, I'm 32 episodes in. This first season's good. Just watch that, please.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We would recommend at the very least watching the first season, and only to watch anything else Eureka 7 related if you want to appreciate the first season more for just how bad everything else is.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's continue this.
Yeah.
I'll roll it back about 5 seconds.
If I hit play on this, will it play it? Do we all have control of this?
With the story attempting to make their views the correct
Not
one.
anymore.
No?
I am taking that away. I am in control.
Yeah, I thought, what happened to us all being the host, dog? What the heck?
I am also the host channel. I have to make sure it's presentable for my channel. Now, I can actually replace it. That is something I have to do when like I'm showing people like the newest Fixing Ruby episode and like the sketchies. When it's like, hey guys, we can the pre-release reveal or premiere that we can all watch together. I have to make sure that I have control of it because, dear God, no one has any. You always have that one person that doesn't understand how Watch Together works.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just be very careful with it.
Anyways. Because of this, when you have the Strawman character make points that stand against the main character's views and methods, the writers have done such a poor job explaining why the main characters are supposed to be right, that what was supposed to be a Strawman character making wrong points actually stands out as a more sympathetic and likeable one than the main characters. This is the sympathetic Strawman, or as Mr. Bug on Twitter put it, the John Walker effect, with his post inspiring me to make this video. Now, when
Wait,
I
I
first
remember
watched
that
Falcon and the
post.
Winter Soldier,
Yeah, I remember that post because I'm pretty sure somebody posted that before this video came out, which got me hyped. And I'm pretty sure I cited Ironwood as an example of a sympathetic straw man in that list there.
Let's try and grasp what that post said.
this is the sympathetic Strawman, or as Mr. Bug on Twitter put it, the John Walker effect, with his
At the suggestion of we're going to make this be a popular thing. Gather around kiddos and aspiring writers, classes in session. You may ask, what the hell is the John Walker effect? The Walker effect is when in any form of media, the writers unintentionally make the antagonist characters far more entertaining, far more believable as characters, more sympathetic, more heroic than the stale and downright evil protagonist / hero.
post inspiring me to make this video.
Typically,
I have a
Now-
quick question, because I don't remember. Is Wyatt Russell's character John
Inspiring me to
Walker?
make this
I don't know. The guy that becomes U.S. agent?
Is
Yes,
that
yes.
John
Yeah,
Walker?
yeah.
Yes, that is
Okay.
John
Yeah.
Walker.
We've said that name multiple times before and while in the stream, and I was hoping I would be able to pick up on it better.
John Walker, formerly known as Captain America, now known as U.S. agent.
Cool. Yay.
Typically, you will see the writer project all the things they view as evil onto these characters to make a straw man against their oh so perfect protags. However, this is unintentionally causes these characters to be based, for they are the only ones calling out the protag's BS for what is, has actual ideas and motivations that isn't selfish.
Video.
Has to be amped to a cartoonishly bad to try and make the audience root against them. Okay. So, yeah, that's a fair definition, I think, of what this video is going for.
I've been thinking about this a lot lately, actually, because if you're in my Discord, I've been telling that I'm working on a Wish review, and this is a concept I've thought a lot about with like how Twilight mentioned earlier, the antagonist with Wish, and I was worried it was just a me thing, because I always come into situations being like, what would it be like if it was the other way around? Perceiving it with the heroes being the villains. How does that perspective work? So I like knowing that it's not just me feeling this way about things.
Oh, yeah, and I remember, like, from what I know of Wish, isn't, like, the core premise that the main character is like, why can't everyone's wishes be granted, right? That's kind of her perspective on things.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And, like, by the end of the film, there's no pushback on that.
Right.
like because like
even though
the reality
like the
of it
main
is
quote unquote villain, basically ironed out like, yeah, we can't have everybody just get in this magical wish granting device and have everything they want. Are you serious?
okay.
It's especially because
always get what you want.
it's especially because like it's painted in such an understanding way, because like he explains the villain, Magnifico is his name. He explains that he was from a village or somewhere that got completely destroyed by thieves, and so now he's overprotective, and that's why he's like, I can't do every wish, because what if something bad happens? And so it's like, oh, that makes sense.
But like,
Yeah.
okay, I can't believe I'm about to say this. Wonder Woman 1984 does this premise better.
I'm
Legitimately.
the only person that likes that movie.
No, I love that film. I don't think it's good, but I love that film. It is so much fun. But like the end of that film has a moment where what's the character's name? The guy who's granting wishes.
Pedro Pascal.
It's Pedro Pascal playing him. He does a fantastic job in that. But he's granting wishes out to the entire world. And what's wonderful about that film is it actually shows the realistic ramifications of what happens if everyone gets their wish granted. Well, suddenly you have an Irishman yelling at a British lady, over, this lady being like, oh, I wish all you Irish people be booted out of the country. And suddenly all the Irish are being rounded up by the police. And the guy turns around to her and says, oh, I wish you had a fucking heart attack. And she starts having a heart attack. It's like, well, I'm sorry, Wish. Who wins in that scenario?
Yeah.
Please tell me why it's so great that everyone has their wishes granted. What if I, Dr. Eggman, wished for my excellent egg empire to flourish on this planet and all the cuddly woodland creatures to be enslaved?
Mm-hmm.
You're the villain there if you grant that wish. I'm sorry. There's a moral to, like, you can't always get what you want. I'm pointing to Twilight right now. No one can see that because that's not how this works.
That was a thing in Digimon at the end of 02, and part of the reason why the ending is so shit, because the ending, they go into an alternate universe where all your wishes can be granted. And all of a sudden, like, Kari wishes that everyone could have a Digimon partner and experience the same things that they did. Well, everybody in the world has a Digimon partner, so including, like, criminals who will probably abuse their Digimon and use them for nefarious acts. Are you sure you want that, Kari?
I love the idea that, like, there's this old lady that's, like, barely alive. She's about to pass on, but she's holding on, and it's like, now, and the orderly's like, now, so long as nothing startles your mother, she should be fine for the next day or so. And it's like, suddenly, like, hi, I'm your Digimon partner.
Yep.
And then the poor Digimon
like,
just sitting there confused.
Abomination.
Just like, don't worry, she'll come back as an egg, right?
Oh my lord, it's so
Oh.
I remember that ending. It's so bad. Anyway,
Yeah,
off
it's so
topic. I know, but we're on board with this guy's.
Yeah, it is a pretty
definition.
good analysis of a slip in writing.
Now, when I first watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I already saw that John Walker was better than the rest of the main characters. But at the time, I thought he was just a one-off event, just the writers being bad at their jobs, and that this thing doesn't usually happen. But the more I looked into different, more popular media pieces, the more I realised just how many times this happens. Before we get onto those examples, let me explain why the sympathetic Strawman applies so heavily to John Walker. Throughout the story, John Walker is treated by both the characters and the story as a phony who can't get the job done and is trying to take the mantle that Steve Rogers built. He's constantly brushed off by Bucky and Sam, most of the time he fails to make an impact, and he's constantly shown to be less effective than Sam, who's treated as someone who should rightfully bear the shield. Then he's shown taking the super soldier serum, and the story tries to frame him as someone desperately trying to be like Steve. And when he kills a terrorist leader later on, the show treats him like a rabid beast that killed an unarmed individual. The two main characters then beat him down, showing that he is indeed...
Oh yeah, you guys have control. You guys can pause and start now.
Okay.
Right, I forgot. I was thinking about this, with this point specifically, is there's a struggle with how people are writing villains these days, I feel like. Where you want to write them in a way, especially when it's a villain that has to spend a lot of time around a character, who's one of our main characters. You want to write them in a way where they feel like appropriately threatening, but also you don't want to make them look like they're outshining your protagonist. Like, you want your protagonist to also feel like they can stand a chance against them.
But I feel like that's... I understand that. I feel like that's such a fool's errand, though. Like, that's taking the meta over the actual story of it.
True.
In the terms of, like... one thing that I was thinking of is, like, people struck upon that having a sympathetic villain is actually a real key to having longevity with a character. I think...
That's not necessarily the case.
Well, I think we've discovered that, but I think there was so many examples of, like, people looking back on different media and being like, yo, wait, though, this character was right. This villain was right the entire time. I'm trying to think of a good example off the top of my head. A good one, a more recent memory, is Thanos. He's not necessarily right, but, like, he has a point to make with his villainy. Like, he's like, look, everyone is going to suffer, so I'm just going to cut out the middleman, have the population, and everything's going to be fine from that point forward. Like, I will look on to a grateful universe. And it's like,
I know a bad example because Isa keeps talking about it every time that we get into VC.
Is it Fate?
Oh, what?
No, it's Genlock.
Oh, Christ. You know, actually, another good example, Dewey.
Yes,
Dewey. Okay, Dewey from the original series. Clarify.
I was about to say.
So, oh God.
Silco from Arcane as well.
Silco from, arguably,
Abuela from Encanto.
arguably Homura from Madoka Magica.
Yes.
Sort
A lot. It's hard to really classify most of those characters. Is she the villain? I don't know.
I would say Cube, but I feel like that's just gonna ignite Twilight over there.
No!
There's also Char Aznable from Gundam. At least up until Char's counterattack, when he kind of goes full psychopath. But
I know the meme is that in his last moments, Amaru is nothing but just shocked at just the depths of Char's mommy issues getting in the way.
Oh my God!
I know nothing about it. I still need to sit down and actually get through the OG series of Gundam. Also, Dead Rex are the Thief Tackle TV show. It's I love it. On at 8 p.m.
I know Zuko isn't the first character to do this, but I think he was a very popular and very inspiring character that started this new trend of sympathetic villains or villains that get redeemed. And we've seen it a lot more, especially after the end of Avatar.
Like, I think there's a lot to especially the redeemed villain, I think, is another big thing that's come into vogue. I mean, I was just like, the most go-to one is like Vegeta.
Yeah, Vegeta.
Well,
Although
Vegeta,
I do
definitely.
love, I'm pretty sure, was it the
Best
Abridged
boy.
or someone that pointed out that he's not really redeemed. He's just like in the most convenient place he needs to be. Like, he's done.
Pretty sure that's
He has never actually
I'm pretty
atoned
sure-
for
I'm
any of
pretty
the
sure
shit he's
by the
done.
time he marries Bulma and becomes like the best family man ever, he is pretty much redeemed.
Yeah,
He
right.
wouldn't
wouldn't
never
admit
want
it.
any harm to come to Earth because that would mean that his family would be in danger.
God, I
Yeah.
love Vegeta. Isn't he the best?
He is great.
There's also Piccolo, I guess, as well.
Didn't they also try to redeem Frieza?
Sorta.
No, they didn't do that. It was
Oh.
more of a convenience, a
Yeah.
convenient alliance thing during
Okay.
the Tournament of Power. It wasn't
Mhm.
actually redeeming him
But
because he becomes a villain like a couple arcs later, anyway.
The last time that I saw anything Dragon Ball related was GT.
Ah, fair enough.
The
Underrated.
Canadian GT, not the whatever you got down in America.
And we all know that the real villain of GT was Pan. Anyway,
Oh my God.
I don't remember anything about GT. I just know that people didn't like Pan.
Well, because she was the first female Saiyan in the series, and she was also pretty useless despite the fact that she was just as much of a Saiyan as any of the other guys.
Yeah. I mean, you
Damn.
would think there would be a whole thing about like her potential, kind of like with Gohan and other characters, but yeah, they didn't really do much anything with her.
Yeah, no,
That's like the first arc.
after he created Goten, who is basically just Goku reproducing via mitosis, it was all the Goten show.
You said, okay, so you said after he created Goten, and I know you were referring to Akira Toriyama,
Yeah.
the like mangaka, but I thought you were talking about Goku, and I'm like, I don't think created is the word I would use.
No, he, like I said, he reproduced via mitosis. That child has no chi-chi in him whatsoever.
No wonder Chi-Chi's pissed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Chronosphere. That's cute
Yeah,
and saddening.
Chronosphere, like,
Thank
this is
you.
great.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
all right.
Anyway, back to the video.
Inferior to them, and then he's stripped of his rank and publicly humiliated by his superiors. It's only towards the end of the show, when he's shown abandoning the shield and following Sam and Bucky's orders, that they stop trying to treat him as a joke, now that the true Captain America is here. That's how the story wants you to see his character. Unfortunately, the writers did a terrible job, and I have the magic power of common sense, so that's not how I saw this character at all. Steve Rogers was an iconic hero to the world, but he started as a soldier and a symbolic representation of the US, so it makes perfect sense that they would try and reclaim that title. They then proceed to pick John Walker to take on the mantle, and he's been shown
Also,
having great hesitation over...
What the hell? I don't know. Every time I click it, it doesn't stay.
I should clarify.
Huh?
The way you control this, you have to use the bottom bar. You cannot use the actual video itself.
Oh, that's dumb. That's really dumb.
Okay. It's just how some quirk of how Watch Together works.
Okay, whatever. Anyways, what I was gonna say is that something worth pointing out is that at the beginning, because Sam was given the shield at the end of Endgame by Steve as an old man, right?
Yes.
And like Sam said, "Hey, I'll do what I can with this," and then immediately at the start of this show, Sam immediately just gives up the shield to the military.
How respectful of your friend.
There's a lot of problems with the end of Endgame involving Steve. Like, there's the whole, like, it kind of is a betrayal of Bucky, because, like, their whole thing through the entire series of films was, I'm with you to the end of the line, and then Cap just goes off and, like, has an entire happy life and doesn't... It's like... I can make arguments defending Steve in that circumstance, but it's like, all right, well, pass on the shield to him. He's been with you this entire time. He's a super soldier. He's got a giant robotic arm, and you've seen that he's just as good with the shield as you are. Like, let Falcon be his own guy. And let Bucky redeem himself like he so justifiably has.
Right.
And it's like, all right, well, you chose Sam, all right, fine, okay, that's not who I would have chosen, but fine. He was a very reliable comrade, and he has demonstrated a lot of willingness to go along with your shenanigans and follow your lead. So
but it also does kind of speak to this, at least for me, what I find kind of this disgusting trend of, like, Black people replacing white characters in an already been chewed kind of way, like you're getting my sloppy seconds.
Ooh, that's a way to put it. Ooh.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a perfect way to put it, honestly. Like, it's so like, it's so
let Black people have their own characters, let them form their own identities. They aren't
Or at the very least, how about you use the E-list superheroes that are like of Black or of different ethnicities and shit, and actually put them on the big screen and make them famous?
I am still shocked that I know this is DC, not Marvel, but I'm still amazed we have not gotten a Static Shocks movie.
I was about to fucking say, it's a crime. It's a crime.
But you know what? Here's the thing. I'm seeing here and I'm like, in this current climate of mediocre to bad superhero movies, I want a Static Shock?
I don't care. Damn. I want Static.
You see, because what I'm scared about is, like, they're going to take, like, Richie's father, who is a racist asshole, and, like, it's not exactly subtly done,
right.
But, like, they're going to take a character like him, and they're going to I don't want to say sympathetic Strawman, because this wouldn't make me sympathetic to him. But they're going to do it where they're going to ramp him up to a cartoonist. Like, I don't know, Virgil's going to be exploring Richie's house and, like, open a closet, and there's going to be, like, a white hood in there, and be like, oh damn. My God. But you fucking know that's how people, like, there's someone out in Hollywood that'd be like, well, we didn't think it was obvious enough for the viewers, so we thought we would try and make it more palatable to a modern audience so they would understand.
I would disconnect from life if that ever happened, honestly.
This actually really, like, perfectly dominoes into a thing I was going to reference before with this video, is the idea that corporate Hollywood right now is very stupid, and they don't realize people are more nuanced than what they give them credit for. They don't realize that audience members do pay attention and do think about the consistency and the intricacies of characters and plots, and because they think we're stupid, they think they can get away with the sympathetic strawman type deal. And also that's also why they like do things like that, where they take an interesting, nuanced idea and go 110% with it, because they don't think we pay attention enough.
Exactly.
So then they end up bastardizing their own concept.
No, you know what? I'll go one step further. You are giving them way too much credit with saying that they think of us as stupid people. They don't see us as people. They see the fucking numbers. They see that this shit appeals to this demographic, which means bigger number and more money. Okay?
It's like that one level in Persona 5 where everyone was an ATM machine. That's what they think we are.
Philip Schwartz, the problem with superhero media is that the heroes defend the status quo. They make no effort to change society for the better. Despite their methods, the villains actually want to change things. Full stop, motherfucker.
What?
I'm going to stop you. Okay, so let's go through the most modern... Let's go through the early Avengers, all right? So, status quo was the world did not have sustainable energy, clean energy. Tony Stark changed that in a fucking cave.
Exactly.
Tony Stark came home from cave with a box of scraps. He came home, ended a mass production of weapons, and then turned into a mass energy producer and perfected a suit of technology that let him save the world when it was needed. Let him to stop foreign threats on his own, so that he could control his own power and his own weapons and use them judiciously. Captain America.
The entire premise of X-Men are activists.
Yeah, Captain America.
Also against activist terrorists.
Captain America came in to end the
Nazis.
Came in to stop the status quo of the Second World War and end the Nazi regime.
And even if we look at, and that's like the beginning of Marvel. Let's pay attention to some of the most recent ones, like Guardians 3. The status quo was let the High Evolutionary keep doing his experiments. They did everything they could to stop that.
Avengers Age of Ultron. The movie opens with them actively hunting down the cells of Hydra that were still in existence. It was them trying to wipe out a massive problem that everyone was dealing with. Cap took down all of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, what you want to say about the mass casualty numbers that ultimately came out of his destruction of the helicarriers that day, and the number of innocent people that got caught up in that, fine, but he ended up destroying one of the massive arms of the government because he thought that it was unjust and manipulative and exploitative. What else can we say about this? You have the most recent examples in Quantum Mania, where they're talking about using the PIM particle technology to actively cure world hunger. I
can't think of any story where the objective is to keep the status quo.
Yeah, the only time when people say that superheroes keep the status quo is when we don't see what other characters are doing in replacement of what the villains are doing. But even then, half the time, it's just people bitching because they were paying only half attention. That is why you need to actually think about the things that you are saying when it comes to media criticism and all that kind of stuff. Actually think about whether or not what you're saying is supported by the actual media itself.
Can I just say something? Sometimes protecting the status quo to a certain extent is kind of a good thing. The thing about being a superhero is that you're not supposed to placate to that most of the time, in most cases, of course, you're not supposed to, if you don't have the ability to, fuck with the world order. You're not supposed to be judge, jury, and executioner in all different issues. You need to do what you can within the law, of course, aside from the vigilantism, and you save people, and you go and you take care of whatever needs to be taken care of that can threaten public safety. People that do want to do that, and have the ability to, like we said, Iron Man, Captain America, all those other
for the
people,
record, I just want
fine.
I bet you're like, because this sounds so close. I'm watching an EFAP right now covering the hidden politics of the MCU by Pop Culture Detective, and it's the exact.
I didn't see that.
Yeah,
I didn't see that yet.
This is the exact like line of thought, is that the heroes don't actively do anything. There's a reason why like I had all those examples on speed dial, is because literally I was just watching them and be like, no, wait, this argument makes no sense because all these heroes have been doing this and this and this and this and this.
If we're just talking about the MCU and the other Marvel movies, absolutely not.
Yeah,
like the
remember
most
the
you could say is
Sokovia
maybe
Accords?
Spider-Man.
The Sokovia Accords that Tony backed to try and regulate humanity, to try and regulate superheroes. Thank you, Dragon Ball Z, by the way. Lamau, remember the conflict of Sokovia Accords. Exactly. And it's like, you know what happened when that happened? You had two heroes who are both very good people disagreeing and coming into conflict over their ideals. One wanted government control over this, one wanted more freedom. And that's where the beauty of that movie lies, is that like you had two heroes who wanted to progress society in one direction or another that conflicted. And that is how you get villains a lot of the time. Is you have ones that are trying to progress humanity in one direction, and the heroes want to progress them in another.
While we were talking, I did think of one example of a story where the goal is to keep the status quo, and it's Ocarina of Time, because it specifically shows you what reality becomes if you fail.
Yes.
Which is a very unique way of telling a kind of story where the status quo is supposed to be kept.
Terminator.
Keeping the status quo is not inherently a bad thing. So trying to act as though keeping the status quo is an inherently bad thing is a bad thought to go down.
Especially depending on what hero you're talking about. Like, what the fuck is Spider-Man supposed to do to change the world?
Izanagi says, why do I feel like I'd be pissed trying to deal with the MCU discussions? Well, I'm surprised you don't have an aneurysm just watching the MCU at this point in general. But you know what, here's a good example. People go to Killmonger and be like, oh, he was such a good villain. And it's like, no, he wanted to kill women and children. Like he wanted to genocide on the basis of race. Like,
yeah, Killmonger wanted to have a racial genocide. He didn't give a shit. He just wanted to watch the world burn, man. Like because he was angry.
There is a level of like, that's like, okay, the origin point might have had a purpose. Like there might have been something to his origin point where he just fed up with how people were racially treated when he was growing up and how he saw the wrongness of the world. Fine, you know, that's all good as a motivation. By the way, your methods happen to involve doing 10 times worse than anything you experienced.
Wait a minute. Also, Thomas More knew the only hero trying to keep the status quo is Thor, but that's to stop disaster. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
The status quo
I know that
happens
this
to
is
involve
like,
people alive.
I know that this is like my own shit and all that kind of stuff, but like my superhero characters in a story that I have kind of had on the back burner for a number of years now, they also try to keep the status quo because they're trying not to let the city fall into anarchy after all these people have superpowers, and then all of these people try to gain power and leverage through their powers so that they can start these big criminal chains and all this kind of stuff, and people just start like looting and murdering and stuff like that, and they're just trying to like keep the city as from falling apart for the most part.
Yeah.
Killmonger's worst crime was giving us that stupid yee ass haircut that every black character has to have. Ooh, ooh! How dare you say something so controversial yet so nice? I'm looking at you, Miles Morales. That fucking awful final outfit in Spider-Man 2. That was just an Adidas tie-in.
I know what you're talking about.
Oh,
yeah, that was.
I'm glad that you have your hair exposed. I'm sure that's not an identifying characteristic that can be used to figure out who you are.
Right. Anyways, though, we're 3 minutes into the video.
I know.
We've just been having so much fun talking about this stuff.
Well, that's the point of this. Like, the important thing is we're not running overtime, and I think we're on track right now.
For doing so, feeling that he wouldn't be able to live up to the ideals that Steve had or be a good representation of Captain America. but he chooses to do so
God,
because
he's
if he
pretty.
doesn't, someone else will. So he takes on this mantle and, despite fighting super soldiers, he and Loomar still try and assist Bucky and Sam as best as they can, with Walker even being the last man standing in the truck fight scene. When meeting Bucky and Sam on the road, he offers them a ride, assures them that he's not trying to be better than Steve, and that he's just trying to do the right thing, which would be easier if they worked as a team. He attempts to talk to them and get them to work with him to take on the Flag Smashers several times, but all they do is either insult them or talk down to them. Sam and Bucky eventually decide not to help them and get out of the car to walk several miles to get to the airport, costing them a great deal of time and effort because of the horrific crime of giving Loomar a nickname.
I'm Battlestar, John Spartan.
Battlestar? Stop the car!
Because it's not like any other major representational figures in this universe have nicknames or code names.
Like, I get, like, there is a point where that would have been funny at, like, the very beginning of the MCU. Where, like, oh yeah, no, you have a silly name, and like, oh, you gave him a silly name? Stop the car. Like, I could see that.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was funny because it rhymed. Stop the car.
I never realized that.
But like,
oh my God.
this is post Endgame. It's like you were fighting alongside, dude. You were best friends with Rocket Raccoon.
Yeah.
Why is that the breaking point, dude? Oh, that raccoon swore to steal your arm. I mean, come on, man.
It's a thing I see a lot where like their reaction to the two of them being like immediately hostile, even though they're seemingly trying to do nice things. It's this thing where I feel like the writers get so wrapped up in they know the end of the story, they know where it eventually goes, that they like they forget to have the parts in the beginning where it makes sense for the characters to be treating them the way based off of how they know the story will end up down the line.
Critter.
Exactly why I have
just
my
say-
first novel.
Critter. Oh my God.
Are you
Also,
okay?
It's wonderful.
oh, the new Deaderex art. Yes.
Oh,
Oh my God.
It's like the perfect Disney for that. Oh, I wonder, was there a temptation to do Bakuman instead?
oh, it was Debbie Barabon.
Also, I will also say, Critter, just say Miles and Carey syndrome, okay? Because that's exactly what you're describing. Because here's the thing. If you already have it in your mind that you are going to make John Walker an antagonist later, and you want, to establish that Sam and Bucky aren't cool with him, then actually have John Walker do something that's worth that ire. Have him be too braggadocious, insanely rude to them, feel entitled to them in some way. Things that are believable reasons why you would not want to work with someone.
I remember hearing people discuss like that scene in particular, and like one thing that got brought up was like, well, you ever jumped on a live grenade? And he's just like 3 times. It's like
yeah,
it's like it's like they could have done anything else with John Walker, and it's actually impressive because I'm so happy they didn't, because John Walker is such a much more fleshed out character. You could have had it just like, really, if I were to do this, I would have had it start out with them just on the wrong foot. Like something happens where it's just on the wrong foot. Like he says something, put his foot in his mouth, and it pisses off Sam and Bucky. Maybe he says something like disrespectful about it. Maybe he says, "I hope that I can fill Cap's shoes," or something that like implies replacement. And then you get a moment here where he's trying to be like, "Look, I didn't mean that. I'm sorry. That's I understand we got off on the wrong foot," that kind of thing. But like,
it's also this thing where I feel like writers in Hollywood, especially Miles and Carey, fall under this as well, even though they're not Hollywood. But I feel like it's this thing of when they're writing a character that will eventually get some sort of redemption or become a main character at some point, they are afraid to have them cross into asshole territory. Like they can't write John Walker as an arrogant or or assholey kind of character, because we need to make merch out of him later when we make the Thunderbolts, and we want you to like him.
Is that even
if he's
still
an
happening?
asshole, you won't like him.
Well, Miles and Carrie aren't Hollywood, but boy golly, did they try to be, and that's their problem.
Later on, Bucky is arrested because he missed one of his therapy sessions, which he has to go to by law. And who comes to help him out in that situation? Walker and Loomar, who help him get out of jail. Later, they once again ask the main duo to come and help them out, and after they once again refuse to help, seemingly for the fact that they just don't like Walker, Walker tells them to stay out of their way if they're not going to assist them, which he has the right to do so. He has official orders from the government to try and track down the Flag Smashers. So if the duo are just going to get in the way or do something that's against the best interests of the governments they represent, then it's probably best that they just don't come along. And on top of that, this episode ends with the duo visiting Zemo, a known terrorist and murderer, and later breaking him out of prison, further souring their relationship with Walker.
Yep, that's what happened.
Why?
Because they
need
wanted
his
to
help for
get
something.
information out of him to find out where the Flash Smashers got the super soldier serum from.
The Flag Smashers are stupid, and I hated them.
They are.
Yes.
We can go into like because the Flag Smashers, they're all about like eliminating like country borders, right? That's their whole thing.
Yeah.
Something like that. I don't even remember. It was so dumb and
It's
poorly
so
explained.
confusing. It's so confusing. They want things to go back to how they were before everyone came back from the snap.
Right. And then it's like, well, no.
Which
We're probably
No.
still borders and stuff before that, though. Like, I'm pretty sure that like, countries didn't stop being a thing during the bubonic plague.
no.
Everyone's dying. We're just gonna get rid of this.
Bring out your dead. Bring out your dead. I'm not quite dead yet. But the borders came down, so I got to make sure I clear out everyone in this area. Hi Phoenix 1754 says Falcon gets mad being called Cap's wingman. What? Yeah, what?
Yeah,
Okay.
Like it's a good pun,
it's really dumb.
and it's true.
And the government.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say like so there's a whole issue
Flag
with
Smashers,
the Marvel Cinematic Universe and dealing with the entire concept of the blip in general, where
Yes.
5 years have to have passed, and then they just wholesale bring everyone back. And the best film to have handled this, I believe, was Far From Home, Spider-Man Far From Home. Everything
Right.
else is just done horribly.
Everything
with it.
else is just garbage because in the case of the Flag Smashers in this show, they it's so stupid. Like they don't understand that the government are literally stretching themselves thin trying to give proper housing and food and resources and job opportunities to people who got blipped back after being killed by Thanos.
There is actually a complication with this criticism, though, of the Flag Smashers,
Right.
because as I understand it, a massive plot point had to be changed because this was going to be airing basically in the heart of COVID, or at least like in the wake of COVID.
Oh.
A massive
Yeah,
plot point
yeah.
was originally that they weren't like shuttling around super soldier serum. They were shuttling around a bioweapon that was going to be a disease.
Heaven forbid a story talk about something topical. Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Even accidentally.
The Watcher's
Yeah.
too stupid. They'll think that we're talking about COVID. Better be as
my
delicate
God.
about it as we can.
Okay,
Oh my God, Deaderex, don't give me that. But Kaiser, you gotta do better. Fuck off.
God, that line.
I hate
Oh.
that. I hate that so much. Okay, Twilight, for context. At the end of the story, they try to actually this plays into what we were talking about with the Flag Smashers. So at the end of the story, after everything is said and done, whatever government officials were in danger because of the Flag
Senators, it was
Smashers got
senators,
saved.
yeah.
Yeah, they were senators. They got saved, right? And but the show, despite the Flag Smashers being abhorrent people, like killing defenseless soldiers and shit, blowing up places, stuff like that.
Killing innocent.
Yeah, killing
Defense
the
of
innocent
soldiers
people.
kind of feels like
An oxymoron, yeah.
Yeah, an oxymoron. But I
Yeah.
get it because you can have soldiers that aren't like around their weapons 24/7.
Right, but anyway, Falcon, after fully co-opting and then Captain America, goes up to the senator and tries to talk him down about like, hey man, you need to do better in regards to giving all these resources and stuff. And he's like, well, we're pretty stretched pretty thin. This is a complicated process. And you know what Sam says, Twilight? You know what he says in response?
What does he say?
You gotta do better, Senator.
Oh,
That's his exact words.
It's never crossed his mind before. Just
Yeah.
be better.
It's like
Damn.
Be better.
the
Wow.
entire show just boils down the complexity of the massive political quagmire that is the post-blip reality. And it just says, just do it better.
you know what I think on a small scale did that better, at least in the first season. The second season kind of shit the bed on it, but there's an Australian drama series called Glitch, where for some unexplained reason, people came back from the dead.
Yeah, I saw the first episode of that with my family.
Yeah, and the main show follows this man whose wife comes back from the dead after 5 years of being dead, and then dealing with the consequences of he now has a new wife with a child on the way, and now his wife has come back from the dead, and she just kind of expects them to pick up where they left off.
Holy shit.
Yeah, that's
I think I watched that.
I was gonna say, like, that's
I want to watch
someone
that.
get
That
those
sounds
people
interesting.
and then bring them over to Marvel and be like, hey, we have this whole thing where for 5 years people just didn't exist and then came back from the dead. You get to write this. Have fun. Do that.
Yeah.
Do that because the show has apparently She-Hulk, the creators of She-Hulk said, "Oh no, we're done with the blip. No one cares about that anymore." And it's like,
Oh my, yeah, that's so fucking.
that is
Ironically, this is the exact problem Ruby's currently, would be having if it wasn't a dead company by now.
Yeah.
But the problem of when you set up such a massive world-altering event, like either the blip or with Ruby, Salem destroying one of the kingdoms or another one off screen, like the idea of the fallout of that is the interesting part. Seeing how this will have giant ramifications on not only the characters
that's the
personally,
point.
but the world in general. And so often, like, the writers will write these interesting scenarios like the blip, and then they'll be like, oh, but we don't want to explore that.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, because that's too risky. They don't care about taking risks.
Can you imagine for like a trailer for like a volume 10, just
BRB.
a day in the life episode following one random civilian, either from Atlas or Vacuo, and just showing the struggle of every single thing they have to do in their daily life just because society has basically collapsed.
Make it like
Dude,
Neon
that is
and like Team Funky, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. That is exactly what ironically Gundam did with probably the best Gundam side story in the main timeline anyways. War in the Pocket.
Yeah,
War in the
I keep
Pocket.
that one is like that is one of the things motivating me to watch the rest of the series.
It's the
just
best
so I can appreciate it.
one. It is the best one. It's so good because it's all about this kid who is living in a world during the 1 year war and just seeing his reactions of all the fuckery that happens with that and how it influences his child.
I was gonna say, like, I would love, and it looks like the new movie might have a bit of that because you're seeing it from the Zaku perspective, the Zeon perspective. But I would love a Gundam series where you don't have a character who's like at all involved in the military or at all involved in like the armored infantry. They're just like regular infantry, just all from their perspective, watching as these giant robots are wreaking havoc on everything around. Like, how terrifying to turn it into a horror movie where the enemies are giant robots. Like it's all about cat and mouse and trying to get away from something that can just crush you by stepping in the wrong place.
I would pay to see that. Yeah.
JK Network says, Far From Home also handled the supposed evil replacement hero better with Mysterio. Like Walker, Mysterio tries replacing Avenger Iron Man, but unlike Walker, they don't accidentally make him more sympathetic than Peter.
Correct.
Yeah.
I will say Mysterio was the best part of that movie.
Oh God,
Alright,
I
now I'll
love
be right
Mysterio. Jake Gyllenhaal is great in that.
God, yes. Oh my God, isn't he going to be in something else soon? Isn't he going to be in something else?
Probably that's typically how actor careers go. You will probably.
Shut up. Shut the fuck up. I think it was a DC or Marvel thing. It was gonna be relevant, but I don't remember what it is.
Let me go to another tab.
I have not seen a single thing from DC since Endgame, so whenever I hear like, oh, this character is so good and that movie is bad, and I'm just like, okay.
I recommend the Batman, the one with Robert Pattinson. That one, it's 4 hours long.
Oh,
So it's a bit of a chore, but I really like it.
It is.
I could watch that. I'm busy rewatching the rewatching and also watching new Disney movies because I remembered that a friend gave me her Disney Plus account, and I'm like, oh yeah, I could just watch these movies that I've been thinking for years that I should rewatch, and then just never got around to it.
Let's see, Guy Ritchie's The Covenant, Roadhouse, and untitled Guy Ritchie action film, with starring Henry Cavill, Jake Gyllenhaal, and Isaac Gonzalez.
Maybe it's Roadhouse that I'm thinking about.
Oh my god.
I could be wrong.
I just realized that they remade Roadhouse on Amazon Prime, and I'm like, but why though?
Right? He's going to be an adaptation of Othello as Iago? Oh, hot damn, I am so down for that. For those of you who don't know, Othello is, I think, my favorite of the Shakespeare tragedies. And Iago is by far one of the best villains in all of Shakespeare.
Also, Robbie and I are gonna have to watch the new Roadhouse because we reviewed Roadhouse, and that was the first time that I saw it for my other podcast that's not out yet because we're waiting to finish Power Rangers. But I don't if the guy that I see in the promotional material is the new main character of Roadhouse, I don't like him because he looks. Like, I know that they say that he's like a past MMA fighter and whatever, but I'm like, he looks too butch. Like, the point isn't that he has muscle. The point is that he tries to de-escalate. So by having him look like he can just punch a guy's lights out, and then probably going to have him punch a bunch of guys' lights out, because that's what this character looks like, I'm just like, no, that defeats the purpose. I just am really scared.
They're making a new Roadhouse?
Yeah,
They did. They already did, and I'm not sure if I want to watch it. I thought that movie was great.
All right.
It didn't need to be remade. I think that you have to wait at least 60 years for a movie to be remade.
I don't strictly agree with that, but I definitely get the sentiment because there's like, oh god,
look, when
Spider-Man got
you're
rebooted.
Remaking a movie every 10 years, you don't need to do that.
Spider-Man's
every
got
30
every
years.
5.
Yeah,
there's some really
Dude,
old.
Disney's at the point where they want to remake Moana. Like, what the fuck?
I'm at the point. There's a movie I can think of that I think is 60 years old that I'd be totally happy it got remade.
Yeah, like there's a lot of movies out there that just get forgotten to time that probably can get remade now, but they just don't because they're more focused on much more recent films getting remade over and over and over
Have
again.
they ever tried to remake Metropolis? I'm talking the 1930s experimental
No,
drama.
I don't think so.
Haven't.
Why has no one ever tried to do that? It's one of the most influential films of all time. Is that why? Are you scared? Are you cowards?
Oh, that hasn't stopped them before.
The only recent remake of anything that is actually succeeding right now is Shogun.
That's a
Shogun is
remake?
really good.
No
Yeah.
way.
No, it's an adaptation of a book.
Ah.
I mean, yeah, well, yes.
Difference. There's a difference
There was a series. The original series was like really old, like in like I believe the 80s or 70s or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, but I'm waiting for Shogun to finish airing so I can watch it all in not one sitting, but
Dude, I watched the first 4 episodes. It is amazing.
I keep hearing that. I don't need anyone else playing it up to me. I just want to sit back and be ready to watch it. All right.
Oh,
Later
just
on,
quickly,
what-
I saw somebody asking
Oh God,
what's
this
Roadhouse.
font.
Oh,
that
goodness.
is
Roadhouse is a movie about a man who is asked to become a bouncer at a bar, and he teaches to de-escalate and having violence as the last resort for when people become violent in the bars and stuff. And then he gets on the wrong side of this man who basically controls the town because he tries to make things better in the town, and that goes against what this guy is trying to do to control the town. It's really great because even though that it's just like a regular guy who just has a lot of money, you can feel the oppression that he has over the town. It's great.
Chronosphere,
Okay.
I don't think you sent any, or you just sent a quote. The hero no one asked for status quo, man.
Status quo.
I'll presume you're gonna send the art in just a minute. Okay, so let's read this text, this really painful text. Okay, buddy, here's a nice editing tip. White on black. It's boring.
Yes.
I know it's boring,
But it works.
But it works.
It's easy on the eyes.
It's easy on the eyes, and it's not this. It's not this, man. All right, so
I had was it white with blue
it might be
for my video?
Yeah,
White and something is usually a good way to, unless if
Yeah.
it's like yellow, unless if it's really close to white,
Yeah,
then it's usually fine.
white. Actually, white on a dark color. Typically, white and red would have probably been fine. I think this
I
red is a
get
little
that
too
this guy
vibrant.
is trying to stay in theme, but I
Yeah.
don't think it works very
Yeah.
well.
Well, I think I always worry because it's like, well, I used my handwriting for the text. Like I went to this website where you can make your own font, and I wrote my own letters in my handwriting so that I can make my own font in my handwriting. So that it Raymond actually used my handwriting for the video where we did it with Clixon's video.
Yeah.
Or reaction for that. And I like nobody's ever mentioned that to me as a criticism in my video, but I always like get so nervous is like, can people actually read it? Like I try to make it so legible, but I never know in practice.
As someone who's writing his chicken scratch, you're fine. Trust me.
Yeah. Okay.
While Sam, Bucky, and Zemo provide assistance in helping them locate the Flag Smashers, and Zemo helps them to find the funeral, it is highly likely that Walker would have found them eventually, as it is his primary goal and he has the resources of several governments to help track them.
Walker meets the group at a memorial held for one of the Flag Smashers, and instead of immediately arresting them for breaking a known terrorist out of prison, Walker still wants to work with them. And why is Walker presented as the wrong in this situation? Because he wants to walk in during a funeral and arrest them instead of trying to talk them down. Please remember that these are a group of unstable people with super soldier serum who have committed a number of terrorist acts and killed plenty of people. On top of that, you have a pretty sizable chunk of the group confined in the building, so they cannot just escape anywhere and there's no civilians nearby to endanger. This situation with a coordinated attack could...
I don't know if I feel that, because obviously we just saw there were children in the room, and even if they're somehow connected to the group and they're actively I would consider children sort of still off, unless they're actively
Shaky
trying to kill you.
ground.
You gotta be very careful.
Yeah.
pretty much end things right now, but Sam and Bucky would rather risk them getting away and doing more terrorist acts because it would be mean to interrupt a funeral. And what happens? The rest of the Flag Smashers run away, Carly refuses to surrender, and when Walker tries to arrest her, she gets away, because the rest of the group was waiting on Sam's plan to work, with Zemo being the only person who manages to do something. And again, that's because he's not really listening to Sam's orders either. Later,
Yes.
Wow.
I remember hearing that Zemo got a little damaged in that show, but he otherwise came out unscathed, which makes me so happy. Because he's like
Zemo was like one of the only good parts of this show.
He was the best part.
I
100%.
love his actor. I remember seeing the scene where he picks up the super soldier serum and like you can see the wheels turning in his head and he just smashes it. It's like you're like, oh, is he going to be a super soldier? No, this man absolutely hates them. He despises them. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, the villain
good.
with principles.
George J says, listening to this makes me a bit worried for Transformers 1. I can see the film's writers making Megatron too sympathetic. Not saying he didn't suffer under Cybertron's caste system, but I prefer my Megatron villainous. Oh man, like, dude, that's one thing that like the X-Men films do sort of right, but also sort of wrong, where they handle Magneto. Magneto has been handled and mishandled in equal measures, where I love how evil Magneto can end up being. By the third movie, he is like, he's amazing. And it's Ian McKellen, right? That's the actor who plays.
Yeah, Ian McKellen.
He's just phenomenal as Magneto. Where like you have this like, let villains be villains. Like you can have them be like, there is it is all right to acknowledge that someone has gone past the point of no return, even if their starting point, like, the road to hell is paved with good intention. That's a perfectly valid reason. And at some point, you can't go back down the road.
I think it's dependent on the particular story. Like, there are some villains that will always be villains, and there's nothing that you can do to change their minds. But depending on the story, there can be nuances for those villains, and sometimes it will be even more than that. It just depends on the particular story. But you don't have to have it where a villain is always just a mustache-twirling villain, and you don't have to have stories where the villain always gets redeemed and there's always something there underneath.
Oh yeah, no, like I'm asking not to have them be treated as like heroes by the end.
Yeah,
like that's one thing with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I know they treat Carly. Is that her name, Carly?
Yeah, Carly.
They treat her as like this martyr. They treat her as like this heroic person that fought for her ideals and died by them. It's like, yeah, but she was also like a child-killing asshole. So, like, I have no sympathy for her.
And fought for very stupid reasons.
And her reasons were stupid. Like, she just literally was just so goddamn dumb. Like, I have no sympathy there. It's not like Magneto, who was unrepentant in the fact that he needed, like she was like always like, oh, I'm right here. And he's like, Magneto over here is like, yeah, no, people are gonna die. I'm going to kill a lot of people because I'm going to get my way. It's like, you know what? I appreciate the honesty. We're gonna duke this out. You're probably gonna kill me, but you know what? I appreciate the honesty.
Yeah.
The Dora Milaje, members of the Wakandan military, come to take Zemo away for killing their king. And while they're right to want Zemo put away, they are not acting on any authority besides that of Wakanda, which is not part of any government body. Yeah, they kind of ruined
these chicks too.
Oof.
Yeah.
You act like there was much to ruin in the first place.
I mean, look!
Look, if they have a specific gimmick, and then you do something else besides that, you're gonna be ruining them no matter how shallow they are.
True.
NATO. And Sam and Bucky are not supposed to be working on this and should be wanted criminals for breaking Zemo out. So, who is the recognised authority in the government's eyes in this situation? Walker is. And what does he try to do? Defuse the situation and talk to the Wakandans. What do? Right. Immediately try and maim, even kill the rest of the group, and they only stop because Zemo manages to escape and they lose interest in them. And throughout this fight, it's treated as being Walker's fault, and he is humiliated for trying to settle things in a peaceful manner instead of using violence first. Later, Walker and Loomar have...
Yeah.
I hate this growing mentality that you always have to resort to violence first. It's such a reductive way of looking at the world. And it's like, what? Like, if you have any kind of disagreement with somebody, you just immediately go to punching them in the face.
It also makes the protagonist feel so brutish, ruthless.
Brutish.
And there's one thing to like,
Eric.
Maybe Ruby shouldn't have cut off Tyrion's tail.
Don't worry, Crew. I've been into some Twitter drama myself as well recently.
And it's like, it's one thing if a character chooses violence first, but it's if they understand being violence-driven shouldn't always be the answer and sometimes does have negative repercussions on them. Or also B, if they can be violence-driven, and then they sit there and like regret some of their actions. You know.
Falonia says, funniest case of someone arguing baddies need redemption was when pushed for an Adolf H, and he argued even for him. Ooh, that's a hard stance to argue from.
What? Yeah. No.
But you understand, he could have been such a great painter.
Talk about using a
Streets
super soldier
What?
Huh?
Okay.
Sorry. I dropped
serum
something.
that Walker managed to smuggle with him, and Loomar points out that he would be able to save a lot more lives if he had that power, and he's always trying to make the right call. And Loomar is right. The next time we see him, Walker is more than capable of using his new powers and his military experience to take down a large group of flag smashers alongside Bucky and Sam. And then, Loomar dies and we get that scene. Now, many people try and use this scene as an allegory for abuse the members of authority like the military or the police inflict on those that don't have the same authority, but that doesn't work for me for two reasons. Reason number one, these are not innocent people, or some low-time thugs that stole a purse. These people have gone across the world, blowing up public buildings, killing innocent people, and trying to cause as much disruption as possible to society. On top of this, for Walker, they had just killed his best friend when he basically wasn't a threat to them, especially compared to him or Bucky. So Walker, in his grief, combined with the fact that this terrorist refused to surrender until he physically couldn't do anything else, kills him. And I'm expected to feel sorry for this guy?
Oh, there's even more compounding this. There's even more compounding this because it gets worse when you know the underlying context, because there was a whole chase where Walker was chasing this guy down. During that chase near the very end, the guy picked up a concrete water fountain and chucked it at Walker.
Right at
and
him.
Walker had the super strength to burst through it, but if he hadn't, that would have killed him. So the man has already demonstrated willingness to use lethal force against him. And then when he is surrendering, it's not actual surrender. There is actual, there is a way to denote, in body language, surrender. He was holding his hands in front of him, which is a defensive stance. It is not a surrendering stance. The man was still primed, and you have to treat these people as always armed because they are always armed. They are super.
Yeah, they're super soldiers.
Yeah, so it's like, there is so many different compounding reasons why what happened there, they try to make it out to be like, oh, he's bloody.
It's really dumb.
And what's fun is you can then contrast that with Steve, who has done some pretty damned brutal shit himself. There is, in the opening of Winter Soldier, there is an entire assault on this tanker that's been kidnapped or captured by a bunch of thugs, including that guy who's really good at kicking stuff. And
Batroc the Leaper.
Yeah, Batroc the Leaper and his crew. Steve stealth drops onto the ship and just starts taking people out. And there's a part where he kicks a dude. The dude folds in half over the edge of the fucking boat and then falls into the water.
Yeah, but there was never blood on his shield, Raymond.
We didn't film it in
Listen,
slow
he doesn't
motion.
have a scary face. Okay.
Yeah.
I just love that example because when he kicked that guy, the guy was not aware of him at all. This dude was an active participant in the combat. The dude that Cap kicked was completely unaware there was someone on the boat with him. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
Also,
and-
Josh knew. You're right. This is why police say hands in the air on the back of your head. Yeah.
yeah.
With everything, there's nuance, because I always get annoyed when people do say oh, you should just automatically kill, and it's well, no. And then people mock characters who try to stop the hero from killing, because it's well, think of what it would do to you, and it's well, yeah, again, nuance. With this situation, these are presumably trained soldiers and stuff who are killing people, and so while their mentality isn't steel, they might still get traumatized after a while of killing so many people and all that kind of stuff. They've been trained to deal with it. If you have a civilian that just volunteers to become a superhero and stuff, there might be nuance to that. And it's well, don't just kill a guy just because you're angry, because that might that might fuck you up in ways. And like, I got mocked for my superhero story because one of my main characters tried to stop another character from killing one of the main villains of the story, but she wasn't really thinking of like, oh, you can't kill him because you're a good guy. It's like, no, I'm trying to stop you from killing this guy because you were in juvie as a kid, and what would that do for your mental health if you did that?
Yeah.
Philip Schwartz says, redemption can work, but it's often blundered. This is true. Grand Darkfang says, the Dora Milaje weren't ruined. They were just shown for being the racist authoritarian morons Wakanda has always been. T'Challa was an anomaly, not the norm.
Ooh.
I mean...
Yeah. Yeah.
And call them
in a lot of ways.
There's a lot of
would have to rewatch some stuff.
The more that I learn about Wakanda, the more that I realize that, yeah, like, just because they're a super society within Africa doesn't necessarily make them any better than any other super society in the world.
Yeah.
It just means that they have a different skin color.
So this stuff with John is like... So they sit there and mock him for not immediately jumping to violence while fighting the Wakandan soldiers. But now here he's jumping to violence, and I was like, well, how dare you? Well, it's like you could obviously come to the conclusion that he decided, based off of that initial reaction, that he should be more ruthless. So then you sit there and turn around and tell him to not be that ruthless?
Yeah, it's hypocritical. And also, there's another factor.
Very
there's a great video by a guy called Clipped Coin. Now, forewarning, he is very far on the anti-SGW side of things, so a lot of his videos do tend to skew that way, just for warning on people. But he did a very good episode very good video critiquing this episode and this moment and how the movie or the show frames it. Because he's former military and he talks about it from a military perspective about like what rules of engagement are and how they are different from like police action, for example. And like how like what orders John may technically be under given what we know about what's in the show and how what actions he took were justified. It's actually really well done, fairly well researched by my understanding. I do recommend that clip. Just be wary of his other stuff. He can get very hyperbolic for chasing views and such. But I do recommend that.
It's such a shame that YouTube kind of encourages that. No matter what side of the political spectrum you're on, like it just encourages you to go more extreme in order for people to get clicks.
Yep.
Yeah, and like this kind of feeds into how these things are written because you in stories and stuff nowadays because you notice that's how they write too. The problem is that the ways in which they are hyperbolic isn't just to make clicks. It's to basically preach to you. It's sanctimonious. It's not just about greed. It's a power grab.
Let's go back to Avatar being terrible, and then it turned out it's just mid. Like, let's go back to those days of conversation where you have a clickbait title and your opinion is actually rather mild.
Yeah.
Because like I think that kind of fed into this current atmosphere of everything has to be terrible because when you say like this thing is terrible, but then you actually watch the video, and they just say that it's mid, but then, you know, people realize that when you're hating on something, then you get a lot more views. So then it's not just the clickbait anymore. Now clickbait has become reality.
I was gonna say, like, I wasn't trying to propose a permanent solution. I just wanted to roll back to better times. I want to clarify that.
Like, I've made some ranking videos on my channel before, and the thing I know is the only thing people care about are the two extremes. They want to know what the number 10, if it's like a top 10 list, they care about number 10, and they care about number 1. And then whatever their random personal favorite or least favorite is, they'll have like a weird personal interest in. But for like blanket sweeps, number 10 and number 1 is the only ones people really care about. Because they want to know what your extreme views are. And where the stuff in the middle falls doesn't really matter because they can like generally shuffle it around themselves. That's how people only like the extremes.
I might do a top 10 at some point, but I'm going to shuffle the order of everything. So you're never gonna like I'll start with number 5 and then I'll end with like number 4, and like somewhere in the middle are gonna be 10 and 1, but you're never gonna know where.
Damn.
Like because like I would love to just fuck with everyone's perspectives of that.
That's why I think not necessarily like numerical ranking videos, but like tier list ranking videos has gotten more popular because it's rather than starting with the worst and ending on the best or whatever, you're going through something chronologically. And so if you're interested in knowing what the best and worst is, you have to sit there and watch the whole video to eventually find out what the answer is.
Right, because they can always shift and change.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to do another one. We'll have to figure out a good topic. Cause I kind of want to save like the Pokemon rankings for when it's like just me and Critter.
Rude.
I know, but at the same time, it just feels like we started there. We keep it going that way. Maybe get Tom on. All right.
We're gonna have to do our own rankings, Kaiser.
With Blackjack
let's
and
do our Keyblade
Forget the
design
ranking.
rankings.
Forget
Let's
the
do
Blackjack.
that.
Yeah, we could do Keyblade design rankings and not invite Raymond.
Yep.
You wouldn't like my opinions anyway.
I know
You
you
would call me
like your
boring.
opinions. You have bad taste in Keyblades.
those grapes would have been probably been
before
sour.
before we have our own Civil War, let's continue on.
Oh, wait, got a new Deterex art.
Oh.
It's labeled "Do Better."
Oh my god! Yes, it's exactly like this. It is exactly like this. Oh my god! Oh my god! I love how over this shit.
Oh yeah.
Is.
For the record, Chronosphere, I did in fact see you uploaded that last one. It's a little wordy. We'll read it out when we get to the end of the stream.
Yeah.
Oh my god! It's so good. It is so
good.
good.
You guys are doing great.
No, it doesn't work like that. And that brings me on to reason number 2. Why do people act like this is Walker killing someone who's unarmed? Again, considering the fact that he didn't surrender until he didn't have a choice, this is a super soldier. We all saw what Steve and Bucky can do throughout the MCU. They can smash through walls, rip doors off their hinges, hold a helicopter in place, throw people around like ragdolls, and as we saw with Loomar's death, can literally kill people with a single punch. How can you possibly claim that someone is unarmed when they're literally a walking weapon? What's to stop him from breaking out when he has the chance to do so and
Boxers. If you're a professional boxer, your hands are literally classified as deadly weapons. So you can't just get into like a drunken fist fight with someone. You are literally a weapon at that point.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's I know somebody who went to jail because of that. Because not only did he do like kickboxing and stuff like that, but he also was in the army, and he got into a drunken spat with somebody, and then didn't help that he was an Anglophone in Quebec. But
Wow.
I was gonna say though,
Also-
you ever get in a fist fight, rule of the wise. I mean, it's probably not completely always applicable, but open palm, thumb tucked, and just hit with the heel of your the heel of your hand. Just bop them on the head. Just keep doing that. It disorients people.
Do
Also-
the V8 forehead smack.
Yes.
All the best Punch-Out fan fictions revolve around that topic.
Okay, I was kind
Why am I surprised? Why am I-
Yeah,
Like,
of course there are.
I'm not surprised that there are. I am surprised you would know anything about them.
Surprise! I really love Punch-Out.
That is interesting.
continuing to help Carly, which is exactly what he would do, because as we've already discussed, he is surrendering because he has literally no other choice, not because he stopped because he felt guilty. So yeah, I'm not going to say that Walker made the best decision in the world, but he definitely isn't some villain for doing what he did. How many times did Steve kill people?
Oh yeah,
there's
brought up
literally
your
this thing I talked
example,
about.
Raymond. Wow, you chimped him. You chimped. But yeah, freaking. What was I about to say? Yeah, and also near the end of the show, they give Carly all the Flash Smashers, all Flag Smashers. God, okay, I have to stop saying
Flash
my words.
Mash.
Flash Smasher.
That would have been a better show if it was.
Anyways, though, freaking what was it? they give the Flag Smashers and Carly all the benefit of the friggin' doubt, like all the goddamn time. And it's so terrible, but they give them all the benefit of the doubt in the world and everything. However, they do not give that same courtesy to John, who literally saw his best friend. This isn't just his army mate. This is his best friend, his partner, someone who's kept him on the track throughout his entire career, got literally freaking domed right in front of his eyes and just deaded. And these guys are armed and completely dangerous. And you expect us to believe that he's the bad guy? Really?
I'm just sorry. I can't keep helping focus on Flash Smashers. It sounds like a flash mob of like people making like mashed potatoes. Like it's like you just like, suddenly everyone starts pulling out pots and pans.
Critter,
and,
why'd you have to say something?
Robbie Hughes comments Carly and the hash slinging slashers.
Oh my God.
Oh, Robbie is my my other podcast partner, by the way.
Yeah, well done, Robbie.
Yeah.
Oh.
People in the MCU who never had a chance against him. How many times did he offer surrender? So Walker, who has just lost his friend and is suffering deep psychological trauma, is then attacked by Sam and Bucky for what he did. And it's never pointed out that had Sam and Bucky just helped him when he asked, the Flag Smashers would have been arrested a long time ago and Loomar would still be alive. But if we did that, this scene wouldn't be good, so we don't have time or the common sense for that to happen. The duo just beat on him for the shield that Sam doesn't even want and leave him, broken and bleeding on the factory floor. Walker is then dragged back to the US in front of a hearing discussion for his actions. Walker, once again, is humiliated in front of the press and stripped of his rank as Captain America, with all the blame landing square at his feet. This is despite the fact that he was dealing with super soldier terrorists, had
This concept, because think about it from his perspective. He's sitting there fighting for his like his perspective of how it all went down, and everyone's shooting him down. This reminds me of a thing I saw recently. There was a case a while ago where someone had their identity stolen, and the person who stole their identity also got a hold of their social security number and then made a new bank account under their name claiming to be them. And that person kept insisting that it was them, they're the real one, that their identity had been stolen, but everything was under the thief's name and everything. So they started labeling the real person as crazy and sent them to like an asylum because they kept insisting otherwise, and they had to get a DNA test to prove that they actually had their identity stolen.
Jesus.
So it just makes me think of like from someone else's perspective. Yeah, we can have like with John here. We're supposed to see him as this villain who went to too much extremes, but from his point of view, thinking about the chain of events that led up to everything, he might end up feeling like he's going crazy because basically the universe is trying to gaslight him because of the sake of the script.
Right.
It does just sound like this show is just all about gaslighting this character.
Yes. Actually, this is a good point by Ryan Carson. Does Sam think that Steve would be completely leveled if someone killed Bucky in front of him? If Thanos did that, the guy would be brutalized as much as Steve could. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And yet, we're painting John as the bad guy. What the fuck?
I was gonna say there's a whole thing with like the board that could have been handled, because like regardless what the right action was, I could totally see this being a gaffe of sorts. The idea that Captain America has brutally pulverized a man into mincemeat with his shield in front of a public show. Like they made a point of having people like recording with their phones and everything. I could see that being a major PR blunder, and him being court-martialed under that could be a face-saving move, or not court-martial, but stripped of his rank. That could be a face-saving move for the U.S. military. I could totally see that. I could see that being like an interesting political quirk of things. But the fact that behind the scenes, they still treat him like shit, and they still ultimately blame him for it. They don't get him on board. They don't try to discuss him. They don't debrief him. They just immediately throw him out there for the wolves. It's like, what the fuck? I would never
this
want
is
to enter
not
the
how-
fucking military at that point because I would never know if the brass have my back.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Sam and Bucky constantly interfering with his operations, and the fact that the government thrusted him into the role of Captain America when he wasn't even sure he wanted to do it. He gets blamed for everything, and by the way that it's written, we're supposed to agree with the writing that it's his fault, despite the fact that it obviously isn't. And despite all of this, despite everything that's happened to him, what's the first thing he does when he has the chance? He goes to Lamar's family, talks to his parents, and says how sorry he is that he couldn't protect Lamar. He still puts all the blame on himself, and they make sure that they are his primary concern. And some people say that he tries to shrug
Wait, let me finish this.
Oh, okay.
off blame by telling them that this man killed Lamar when it was actually Carly. And yes, literally, that isn't true. It was Carly. But figuratively, this group of people is responsible for Lamar's death. They were the reason why he and Walker were deployed in the first place, and this man assisted Carly in killing him. So figuratively, he is telling the truth. This man does have a responsibility in Lamar's death. Again, I'm not saying that executing him was 100% correct, but the man was dangerous and far from innocent in anything that happened. Also, please remember that at no point is Sam and Bucky punished for freeing Zemo, by the way. They just sweep that under the rug. So finally, Walker still chooses to go out and fight the Flag Smashers, despite Lamar's death, despite his humiliation. He fights for as long as he can, and when he finally gets the chance to kill Carly, instead of choosing to fight the Flag Smashers and kill her, he instead chooses to save the innocent civilians that are trapped in the van. Without Walker's help and choices, Bucky and Sam would have failed and innocent people would be dead. But Walker shows up and decides to focus on saving the civilians over fighting the Flag Smashers, so that doesn't happen. As far as I'm concerned, this is the only time in the show when they don't try and paint him in an antagonistic light against Sam and Bucky. And it's designed that way because this is supposed to be his sort of redemption arc. But again, because of the way it's been written, this isn't a redemption arc in my eyes.
Yes.
This is Walker just doing what he's always tried to do throughout the show.
Yeah.
Help the good guys, stop the bad guys, save the innocent people.
I'm gonna pause it here just because we've been watching a long stretch of this without
The way that it kind of, the way that I would kind of redeem this show in terms of this is if they kind of have a Winter Soldier kind of moment where it turns out there's a reason why he's being painted like this in a certain light, and he uncovers this secret where he is being gaslit because they're trying to, I don't know, stain the reputation of Captain America for good or whatever.
That would have been
Or set up the Thunderbolts. They
Yeah.
want him to join the Thunderbolts, but he needs to be stripped of his rank first, so no one will notice him being gone or anything like that.
Yeah.
Right.
With me, I think this feels like such an easy redemption to make. Just make him the too brutal one. Make him
Yes.
shaking down civilians, too quick to jump to fighting, too war hungry,
Yeah, that-
too ready to dive into
literally.
battle.
Yeah.
And then that
I'm
moment
pretty
where
sure.
the moment where he decides to save the bus, it's oh, he did it. He didn't run to fight. He ran to save, and that's his redemption.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this has been the development of so many other characters. I'm pretty sure there's been, I can't name it off the top of my head, but you know the sort of thing where it's all oh, a different hero is in town, tries to replace the main hero and all that shit, but they have this very big flaw, they're too emotional or they jump to too many conclusions, and they're supposed to develop out of that, or at least be examples to showcase, why the original hero is so good and why they are necessary. This is a tale as old as time. People have been doing this shit since the friggin' 90s. You mean to tell me that fucking Marvel couldn't do that shit? This is ridiculous.
Here's how I would have approached it. What do we love if not a more complicated hero? What if it's just Sam's problem? What if Sam is the one that has the problem?
Yeah.
What if it's Sam has a problem with this guy taking up the mantle of Captain America? He gave up the shield because he didn't think anyone had the right to, and the government stabbed him in the back by turning around and being okay, here's our new Captain America. And be what? No, motherfuckers, that's not why I gave you the shield. I gave you it as a museum piece. And I could see, Bucky being on board with that early on, but then, as the story goes on, maybe Bucky's this guy reminds me a lot of Steve. And this is Steve's best friend being I kind of like this guy. And
Mhm.
then like you have maybe like a little bit of a falling out. Like I know there is between Sam and Bucky. I know they have a rough relationship to begin with. So the idea that these two like kind of come to heads over this, and it's like it takes until like, you know, maybe Sam either pulls some strings or he kind of blows his lid and in some ways gets this negative press thing behind what's his face behind John. You could do that,
Right.
and have Sam be flawed and see like, you know what, you're a good guy in the end. Like him see
Yes.
through that. Like this
Mhm.
genuinely was a good choice to take up the Captain, because that's what I've seen so far of John Walker, is that he's a really damn good Captain America.
Oh my god, Dead.
It's a weird conundrum where on one hand I feel like writers are too afraid to make the heroes flawed or make bad decisions and then have to like grow because of those flaws or bad decisions that they've made.
Yeah, because who
But
wants
then-
the hero to actually be flawed, right?
Yeah, because so they're painted as this perfect like hero figure, but then
Yeah.
in the same breath they'll accidentally write the sympathetic Strawman for the villain, and it just
Yeah.
kind of paints the heroes as ironically worse in that perspective.
Yes.
Because there's not like nuance to the characters. It's just, oh, they're the heroes, so they're supposed to be right. So you notice the flaws that they do exhibit more noticeably, because everyone is sitting there gassing them up in spite of the flaws that they're showing. Because we're too busy trying to paint these villains as villains, even though it's not. You know what I'm? Do you know? Is what I'm saying making sense?
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, this is the problem that people, this is why I've always been saying, I even said this last stream, these people do not want to take risks. They are they are fucking allergic to the concept of killing your darlings, okay?
Yeah.
It's so weird because these are the things that are supposed to help your characters grow and change, or even if they don't change, at least confront them with things that test who they are. But they don't want to do that because that is either too hard or too challenging for them. I don't understand the source of this problem. Probably insecurity, probably stupidity. I don't know, and honestly, I don't care.
Probably corporate greed. Like I probably bet it boils down to we can't have a character who might have some flaws because what if audience members don't like it and they don't buy the merch? It always boils down to getting money.
It's
That's what
so
all their
baffling
decisions go
me
to.
because like that's how do you get a Tony Stark? How do you get
Yeah.
a Thor Odinson? Like how do you
Yes.
get all these characters that were how do you get a
Peter
fucking Peter
Parker?
Quill? Peter Quill is an asshole.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everyone loves him.
How you get Wolverine? How you get Logan?
Arguably the best people in the Guardians group are the ones we like people like the least, not by like they're bad or anything, just like, oh, you're less interesting. Like OG Gamora
Yeah.
was kind of a goody two shoes, and she always I wouldn't say she's like always goody two shoes, but like she had like more of the moral center. As for once she finally broke free of Thanos' hold. It's like, okay, but like, you know, Quill, Rocket, freaking
All of
Groot,
them.
Like,
Drax.
Drax,
Yeah.
they have no compunction about anyone else's lives but their own and the people they like.
I think it's maybe this thing, they're so desperate to make the characters look so squeaky clean, so they're always marketable, and there's no problematic things that can arise with these characters, that they forget that
Which is-
humans by our nature are also assholes. Like,
Yeah.
we have our flaws too,
Yeah.
and so we like
Yeah,
to
look at this
relate to
stream.
people. We like,
We're all asshole. This is asshole central. And I'm
We
gonna
can-
be the asshole to tell you people and to hold you by the freaking collar and tell you, hey, dipshit, you're fucking Disney. Why the fuck are you afraid of people not buying your shit?
Yeah.
It's like we relate to people like us, so that's why like a lot of people say Superman is the worst or one of the least interesting characters because he's so
Even though they're
squeaky
wrong.
clean compared
It's
to
such-
characters with more humanizing depths. You know,
It's such a shame because it feels like it is such a catch-22 when it comes to these things, because Yeah, when it comes to stuff like this, marketing is so expensive for whatever reason. So even if a movie makes like $1 billion on a $100 million budget, you only gain half of that money in profits simply because the marketing was so expensive. So you need a lot of it needs to make like merchandise sales in order to make an actual profit and stuff like that, in order to fund your next project and all that kind of stuff. But but then you run into this problem of course, like you have to kind of ruin the show a little bit in order to make it profitable enough for the merchandise to work. And
Oh my god.
it feeds in.
Oh my. Oh god.
No, it's just a negative feedback loop of like you're scared that you're not going to make enough profit so that you can't work on your next project, but then your next project is going to be bad because you're too scared to make the characters good because you're afraid of the sales. So it's like, what do you do? Like,
dude, the Garunix King, it's literally Bakugo. They should have done Bakugo. Someone wants to be a hero to fight villains, but does them the
as
wrong
someone
way.
who has been
Yeah.
going through My Hero Academia, taking meticulous notes. Do you know what I keep saying? Seeing I think it's like every 100 chapters they have the popularity poll. Do you know who
Yeah.
tops that poll every
Bakugo.
single fucking time?
Bakugo.
Katsuki Bakugo.
Yeah.
Arguably one of the most repugnant characters in the series.
Yeah.
Admittedly, he is not Mineta, so he's got that going for him.
Yeah.
As someone who's never watched My Hero Academia, I cannot wait for your video to come out.
Oh god, it's gonna be so much.
I'm so excited.
I'm excited
There-
too. I can't wait to hear your thoughts.
There are
on things.
23 like bullet points I need to cover, and I just need to make sure they're all properly organized and like. Oh god, some of them I'm gonna be like, really? This is a criticism people have of this show? Are you?
yeah.
Did we watch the same
Well-
show?
Well, it's interesting. I think I put in the playlist of videos I would be willing to respond to. There's a couple about Bakugo in there, I think.
Oh god.
Well,
I mean,
like there
his
are
and Dexter's
criticisms
relationship is
out there. Like there are criticisms out there. It's like, yeah, those criticisms are valid, even if I disagree with them. But then there are some criticisms. It's like, yeah, I know that there's this idea that like everyone's opinion is valid, but like, no, your opinion is not valid. Sometimes your opinion is just stupid.
Yeah, remember everyone, having an opinion is fine, but please be sure that your opinion is backed up by fact. If you have an opinion that, man, I really hate the color of the sky, and you're like, well, why? Well, it's always green. And it's like, but
Wait, what the fuck?
it's not. The sky is never green. It's like, well, I believe it's green. It's like, that's incorrect.
Like,
Yeah, there is.
You're a
there
bad
are-
person for trying to
Oh my
suggest that the sky isn't green.
you can have an opinion, and I'm gonna argue
Yeah.
it doesn't always have to be backed up by fact, but it does have. If you understand, it's just I just don't like it. If you don't have like a reason,
Oh, yeah, there-
like
there's
a
that.
reasonable idea behind it. Like if I sit here and say I don't like the sky because I don't like blue. Well, yeah, I might be dumb,
it's a
but at least I
personal-
have a response.
No,
like,
I don't think that.
Yeah.
Contrary, I don't think that's dumb. That's actually like a point of like very emotional maturity. It's like I recognize for
Yes.
whatever reason there is an appeal to me that is completely lost or actually like repulsive to me. I don't know what it is necessarily. I don't have the time to self-analyze how deep that goes or whatever. I just know that it's something that doesn't appeal to me, and I can admit that other people might get something from that. There's a difference between that and being just clerically fucking wrong about like the
Yes.
thing that you're it's like, oh
Yeah.
man, I really hate that oh god, I'm trying to think of the most ridiculous thing, but like so much of media is
Well, I just watched Frozen 2 for the first time last night. And I think that it kind of went a little bit overboard with its style of comedy, because I think it was the style of comedy that started with, I think, Rapunzel, but it really ramped up with Frozen, and they just made it even more in Frozen 2. And it's like, yeah, this movie's good, but the comedy, even though that I did chuckle a bunch of times, it's not something that is just for me, but like it's not something that I'm going to be like, it's bad. It's like, no, it's just not my style of comedy. Although the Kristoff song where they just made an 80s music video parody, that was great.
What's that age-old adage? Opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one and they usually stink.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there are informed opinions and uninformed opinions, and those only apply when people are making like big swooping statements, like certain creators, about like certain like genres or tropes or fandoms, for example. And if you're saying that like, if it begins and ends with your a personal dislike or understanding of your own emotional state, then yeah, I'm not gonna shit on you for it. But if you're coming at like an opinion, like you're not just stating an opinion, you're stating a normative claim, right? It's not completely objective, but you're sort of making a sort of like, you're basically like using an axiom, right? You're using a thing that we all agree upon in it just for the sake of conversation. That's the whole point of it. That's the point of communicating with each other about fiction, right? Because of course, if I go to the freaking flying spaghetti monster in the sky and tell them that Sword Art Online is shit, they're not gonna care. That doesn't matter.
Also, Horikoshi got a new editor, and that's why he got way more creative freedom. I did not know that. I'll have to look into that.
Huh.
Ooh.
Interesting.
That's what at least Parker Maestro said. Also, Turtle Duck 73 says, "What the fuck you guys saying? The sky is green."
But
Also, not everyone who's formed. I wish I would be so happy.
We get
Also,
to
not
green screen the sky.
Not everyone who has opinions have deconstructed why they feel that way. Like we do, because we are media critics. We naturally deep dive into the things we ingest from like a story perspective. Not everyone, like I've met people. I had a roommate once where I was like, "What's your favorite movie?" And I don't remember his answer, but I'll say like, I don't know, Field of Dreams. And it's like, but why? And his response was, I don't know. Like, not everyone understands why they do or don't like something. That's because it's just not in their nature to deconstruct
It's why a lot of people like this kind of content where you have a bunch of talking heads deconstructing things. It helps them process things in a way that they don't naturally. I know.
Well, that's also why I discovered why I disliked O2. Because at the time O2 came out, I was only like 11, 12 years old. So I didn't have the means back then to look in myself and like understand why I was annoyed at this show. So the only thing that I could really latch on to was the shipping, because I understood shipping. And I understood, like, if these characters get together, then I'm going to be happy. And if these characters don't get together, then I'm not going to be happy. So therefore, the show is bad because they aren't shipping the characters right. But that wasn't really the reason why I was upset with the show. And it wasn't until somebody did a deep criticism of O2 that, like, something unlocked in my brain. And I was like, oh my god, you're right. That is why I'm so annoyed at this show.
But it was also the shipping. We can all agree they got the shipping wrong.
Listen, it's like that adage. It's like
Ty and
what
Sora,
Mr.
damn
Plinkett. It was like what Mr. Plinkett said. Okay, you did. You didn't understand why,
but your brain did.
But your brain did.
I was gonna say, like, I didn't have a fully formed criticism of RWBY. I knew that RWBY wasn't really all that great, like, in terms of storytelling, but I couldn't like pin it down. Then I watched Fatman Folling's review, and like everything just slid into place, and like it's like I've been on the mental track with that ever since. Being able to analyze it on the fly, like a lot of people, also, like conversing about media helps us.
Yeah, and we're creators as well, so we have to kind of be on the ball of understanding, like, what makes these stories good, what makes these stories frustrating in our eyes, so that we can do that or not do that in our own work as well.
Yeah, but, like, and I do agree with Critter that, like, not everybody is on that same wavelength, and that is perfectly fine. But if you're not on that wavelength, do yourself a favor and keep the fuck out of learn to pick your battles.
Yeah.
Keep the fuck out of places on the internet or places in general where it's very obviously likely that those conversations are going to go in that direction, because if you walk into that sort of thing and not have an informed opinion, one side or the other, you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah, it's you're gonna get chewed up. And of course, go in being positive. And I should have said this at the beginning of the video because I didn't know whether or not it was gonna be positive or negative with this video. Don't reach out and harass Loomar or anyone involved in the making of this video. Please don't do that. I like just at least saying that once per video to be like, hey, look, I do not approve anyone harassing anyone, that sort of stuff. I completely
Rude, Excalibur.
Yeah, rude.
Excalibur says, the sky sucks because it's the color blue. Sorry, Twilight and Mega Man X knockoff, you suck. Oh no.
Wow, okay.
We are all wearing some variation of blue, good sir.
Yeah.
Not me.
Well, okay, your skin is teal.
So
You are
That is
the
a blue mix.
What are you talking about, Critter?
No.
You are blue.
This falls squarely in green in my eye.
Oh, all right. Well, I think we should get back to
in many cultures, there is no difference between blue and green. So there.
Ah.
And that, my friends, is why John Walker is such a good example of the sympathetic strawman. He's designed to be an example of how not to do things, and how he and the government are wrong compared to Sam and Bucky.
Yeah, this
but
is
his
the scene I
actions are
was
so
talking about.
understandable, and the rest of the story is so poorly written, that he comes across as the most likable and sympathetic of the characters. Hell, he isn't even the only person in the show who gets hit with this trope. We all remember this scene, where Sam lectures the government officials that they need to do better for the refugees misplacing the snap.
You've got to do better, Senator.
That might sound...
There it is.
Yep.
There it is. There it is.
unreasonable, if not for the fact that, 1, the officials tell Sam that this is a difficult situation and they are just trying to do the best with what they have, and Sam agrees with them.
But you have no idea how complicated this situation is. You know what? You're right.
And number 2, you know what Sam's big plan is that's much better than what the officials have come up with? Do better. That is not a plan. That is literally nothing. That is just setting unreasonable...
Why you had the perfect opportunity to put the Rocket Raccoon clip. That is not a plan. It's barely even a concept.
Oh my god, I forgot about that. I need to use that clip. Somehow.
It's such a shame because I think there are like a good chunk of his monologue he has here is very good, but yeah, like the crux of it is so like that doesn't actually help though.
Man, the words
Yeah.
around
Yeah,
the
that's
argument are
real
great.
bad.
Too bad the argument is shit.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm not part of the My Little Pony fandom, but like, hasn't this been a meme in the fandom for like years? Except like, it's called 20% cooler. Just
Yes.
make it cooler.
I have no
I know
idea.
nothing about this.
As the only person who has watched My Little Pony, yes, that was a thing.
Yeah.
Just friendship them, and that'll be better.
Yeah. Oh, so it's their
Stand-
version of Talk No Jutsu. Got it. Okay. I understand though.
And it's for a situation that's completely
I only
out
watched
of
the first
anyone's
season.
depth. But
That's
remember, Sam's the protagonist, so we're supposed to agree with him that the government officials aren't doing what they can, despite the fact that they clearly are, and it's a very difficult situation. So, what other pieces of media have some good examples of the sympathetic strawman?
Okay,
Ooh,
okay.
well, let's
so,
take a look.
So, all right. This is where we're now. This part of the video, from me and Pete's recollection, we were behind this shit all the freaking way, right?
Right?
Now, pay attention to this next section of the video because things get very interesting.
Oh dear.
Okay.
In the X-Men comics, the mutants are usually used as an allegory for prejudice against minority groups, with people like Senator Kelly being seen as intolerant, and spreading fear among the general populace. But this allegory has never really worked because some mutant powers are dangerous to society, and there's many times in the comics, such as with the Brotherhood of Mutants, where people use their powers to oppress regular people, which makes Senator Kelly come off as a less racist nutjob and more of a concerned individual who's sometimes overzealous in his efforts to keep people safe. He had red.
Now, okay, so this first example is absolutely terrible.
Okay, how
Because-
Okay, but like there are a lot of people who get trained in combat. Does that make it so that people who are in combat should be kept in jail until they gotta be
yeah.
released?
Well, I do have to. I hate to point out, but Critter did just mention that trained boxers, their fists are considered lethal weapons, and
Yeah.
that is
It's-
a regulated thing. That is a thing that
Yeah.
needs to be
Wait.
kept on top of.
Here's the thing, Senator Kelly isn't just for regulation. He doesn't care
Yeah.
about that. He wants to put these people in internment camps.
Okay, you see
Like-
that?
Yeah, yeah.
There's
That's
the extra
what I said.
qualifier. There's the extra qualifier.
Jail these people until you need them, sort of
Yeah,
thing.
Yeah,
he
that's horrible.
legislated the Sentinels. Like this is that guy.
Oh, well, yeah, no, that you see, this is why, like, I kind of want to do the finish speaking first. We got kind of derailed because he did not provide that context. That is a missing point of context.
Yes.
I can understand someone coming from the point of regulation. I do not understand someone coming from the point of incarceration. That is just insane.
Like he's
That is-
actively.
That is kind of the issue with not providing proper context, because you're trying to make a point through obfuscation of context in order to
Right.
validate your point.
That's
the problem.
Which is disappointing given how much context he gave for John Walker and why he does fit the bill
That
of
is
being a
strange.
sympathetic straw man. Like,
Yeah.
how the fuck did we get this far? Like,
It's
Senator-
also,
Go ahead, Critter.
I was gonna say, it's also so unfortunate because that tactic of pointing to the truly like the criminals, the quote unquote dangerous ones as justification for doing something en masse to a whole group of people because of those quote unquote dangerous ones is like a real world political tactic that is deeply rooted in bigotry.
It is.
So
And I can understand why there would be an argument in terms of the mutant population in X-Men and all that shit. But here's the thing, people. Here's the thing people are really, really forgetting. Omega level mutants like Magneto or many of the people in the Brotherhood of Mutants, regardless of how many times Marvel Comics love spamming these characters, Omega level mutants are the minority within a minority. They're like the 1%. 90% of other mutants in general, not just X-Men, but mutants in general, their powers suck. Like they're the extent of like basic quirks from My Hero Academia. And you're gonna put these motherfuckers in the gulag?
I was
Are you serious?
I was so tempted to be like weirdly pedantic with you. Be like, okay, what the other 9%? But your qualifier actually, it's fine because you were like, okay, 1% super powerful, 90% aren't all that great, and then I guess the other 9% are just kind of they're actually decently powerful. But
Like,
I was so ready. I'm disappointed. I couldn't.
Yeah,
pull
no,
that off.
I anticipated it.
No, you got lucky.
it's a game of pedantry.
Most mutant power is basically like, yeah, my mutant power makes me have 6 fingers or an extra eyeball.
Or my skin is blue. That's it.
Yeah.
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 Excalibur.
The upside is he did in fact join the Blooming group, so you know.
Oh yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Easy admission. Like, how can you not? Someone showed up to the interview wearing the blue skin. You just got that going for you.
True.
So
Excalibur for $10. Okay, X-Men fan here. 9% of mutants in the comics have shit. Like I said, one dude's whole ability is to explode once. and then die, Kelly is basically making robots go after minorities that may have guns. Yeah.
Effectively, yeah.
Did we skip over Dragon Ball
We
Z's?
did. I was going to go back to that. What's worse,
Yeah.
you've got to do better, Senator, or they'll never know what you sacrificed for them from WandaVision.
Oh my god.
Oh, okay.
maybe-
So one
maybe.
is demanding that the government just nebulously do better. The other is basically absolving someone for effectively war crimes. I think they'll never know
And
what you sacrifice
psychological
for that.
crime.
Yeah, I think the WandaVision one is
torture.
worse.
Yeah, WandaVision is worse because the senators, given the Senate, what's going on later on, my headcanon is that the senator is just so ashamed by how stupid Sam is that he's just doing. They just decide to do the same shit and not listen to him.
Also, how do you know you're
Senator?
It's an important question.
Okay, I'm gonna do better. What? You are doing worse. What do you mean? I thought you said you were gonna do better. You told me to do better. Not like that.
Dead X, my mutant power is to explode only once. How do you find that out without dying?
Oh, I know the answer. I actually know the answer.
Oh.
So they went to Professor X, and he used his like psychic abilities and Cerebro to basically he can do that. Like if you're like, I'm pretty sure I'm a mutant, but I don't know what my powers are. He can see what your powers are.
Okay, that's strange.
I like X-Men.
Yeah, that's always been a thing that Xavier could do, even from like the cartoons and shit.
Yeah.
All right, now
I need to restart my read of the X-Men because I started with the very first comic in the 60s, and I went through I think up to.
I didn't know you were that old.
No.
Oh,
No.
Pete, I think he knows the comic that you're referencing, Critter. Is it the one called The Worst X-Men?
I don't. Yes. Yes, I'm pretty sure.
No, it was my idea that I had this idea that I wanted to gain a better understanding of X-Men in the comics. So I decided to go online and look for the first comic books and just start reading from the very beginning. And I started doing that like about 10 years ago. And I think I got like most of the way through the comics of the 60s and maybe into the 70s. And then something happened. I think I might have gotten distracted by a final assignment or something for school, and then I just never went back to it.
it sounds like me and friggin' Trigun. I just haven't gone back to the Trigun manga. I need to finish that.
we have to also finish the reactions for Trigun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we can redo the reaction that we had problems with because it's been well over a year by this point.
Yeah,
Right.
maybe we can. And now we have the hopping whatchamacallit, so maybe I can.
Yeah, we have our PNG tuber characters.
All right, so now we're on the Red Hood, which is going to be an interesting argument.
This one.
All right, I'm going to go back 5.
Hang on to your seats, people.
All right, here we go.
Like the people, which makes Senator Kelly come off as a less racist nutjob and more of a concerned individual who's sometimes overzealous in his
Especially
efforts to
if
keep
we're
people
going by
safe.
the cartoons.
He had Red Hood, aka Jason Todd, in Batman Under the Red Hood. Throughout the film, Jason takes control of the crime families, sets up shop as a drug kingpin, and kills off other criminals that oppose him. We later learn he's doing all of this to manipulate Black Mask, a criminal rival, into releasing the Joker so that Jason can kidnap Joker. You see, Joker, being a mass-murdering psychopath, killed Jason to taunt Batman, and has killed hundreds, maybe even thousands of people.
Okay, but then how did Jason come back then?
Well, it was because
Was it the Lazarus Pit?
Racial. Yeah.
Yes,
Lazarus Pit.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That is always the answer.
It's always the Lazarus Pit.
Yeah.
I remember Crisis on Infinite Earths, the CW version, where they go to a Lazarus Pit,
God.
and it's literally just a hole in the fucking ground, and it's like
Yes.
it's so like we made this set like in a day. God,
I would argue.
It's so bad.
I would argue the only thing that makes Red Hood "quote unquote" sympathetic is the fact that you have the prior understanding of who he was as Robin, basically.
That makes him more tragic.
Yeah, like he's not sympathetic anymore because you also fundamentally change once you enter the Lazarus pit. You're not the same person when you come out of it.
Yeah.
Unless you get Constantine to come up and do some.
Oh, that's a magic. Yeah.
After his
let's
death,
let him
Jason was
cook.
resurrected and came back to enact his plan. Jason tries to force Batman to either kill the Joker himself, or he'll have to kill Jason to stop him from killing the Joker. The reason why he tries to make Batman do this? Because he can't understand why Batman has let Joker get away with slaughtering all these people and destroying so much of Gotham, especially considering that Jason himself died because Batman couldn't stop him. Gotham City is a corrupted mess, with the justice system constantly failing to do its job, and criminals easily escape from prison, failing to protect its citizens from people like the Joker.
Is it just me or is the editing getting
No,
worse too at the end of this video?
Ooh.
Like
Yeah, it's
I'm
not
noticing
as
like
strong.
it happens to me sometimes when I'm editing where like you'll have like the last frame be a transition over to a different scene or a different
Yeah.
camera angle from a footage.
Yeah.
And like you
I-
just don't snip it out properly.
I get pissed when I miss those.
Oh,
Me
right.
accidentally putting the Metabots footage in section backwards.
Whoops.
Yeah,
My favorite
those mistakes-
Digimon.
Oh my god! But
Well,
yeah, I
no,
made
'cause,
those
like, I was
kinds of.
talking about the Metabots game, and I was talking about the actual look of the video game and all of the buildings and trees and stuff, but the opening cartoon the cartoon opening was playing, and then after I'm not talking about it anymore, then you see the video game footage, and I'm like, ah, shit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to fix that
It
at
also
some point.
doesn't help that like you said, oh, my favorite Digimon. Like no, there is actually a Metabot Digimon. That was a crossover
Yeah.
event.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know about that. That's interesting.
Yeah, it happened for 2 years. It was kind of meant to be an April Fool's joke, but they actually have a toy set where you can raise Metabots as Digimon. And vice versa. So like it kind of became an elevated April Fool's joke.
I need to rewatch Metabots. That's what I'm learning from this
It's so good.
conversation.
All that Jason asks is that Batman do what any other rational government would have done a long time ago, and that's kill Joker, and only kill Joker. Batman tries to
this
say
design
that
for
killing
Joker.
Joker will only lead to him killing more people,
Yeah.
but Jason questions why he would even do that. He's not asking Batman to kill petty thugs on the street, or even to kill other members of the Rogues Gallery, just
Okay.
Joker, who has
Now-
proven
Let me get on the green mouse for a little bit, because this part in particular is probably the main reason why I wanted to respawn to this video, because this is a thorough misunderstanding of what this conversation is, right?
Okay.
So the context, of course, is exactly what he said up to this point. The thing that Loomar is neglecting to mention here, though, is that the reason why Batman isn't sitting here giving all the super logical reasons as to why he doesn't, kill super dangerous criminals like the Joker, and instead talks about why, he himself could not emotionally and psychologically handle doing something like that, which, in my opinion, that's a pretty valid reason on its own. But most importantly, the reason why we go that route is if you watch this scene, this confrontation between Jason and Bruce here, Jason, at the very tail end of this discussion, of course, he lays out all of these different reasons beforehand. But none of those things matter because the core of it is emotional. He is upset that Bruce, from his point of view anyways, would rather keep his code than to avenge his death by killing the Joker. Because in his mind, this means that Bruce doesn't love him enough. And Bruce is just challenging that by saying, hey, that is doing something like that is not who I am. And I just cannot do that. That will not be good for me. and that is not something that I'm willing to sacrifice. It's not necessarily saying that Jason is completely wrong for killing the criminals and all that stuff, because fact of the matter is, Batman is not a cop. He isn't judge, jury, and executioner. The real reason why the police work with him is because he stays his lane. He stays within the law. If anything, it's the government that should be to blame for not fucking executing people like the Joker and shit like that. This is why I'm against people who always make the joke of, haha, Batman always beats up criminals and shit like that. He should solve all the problems, or he should kill. Motherfucker, what the hell is Arkham doing? That is not his job.
Well,
it goes back to what I said earlier about like the differences between a soldier who is trained and has the mental capacity to deal with a couple of deaths and a civilian killing people, and what that can do to their mental health and all that kind of stuff. Like if they decide to cross that line and start murdering people. Because unfortunately, when you do something for the first time, it might mess you up for a while, but the thing about humans is that you start getting used to stuff once you do it for the first time. So you become normalized to killing people.
Which is exactly what Batman does not want. He says, hey, if I cross this line, I can't trust myself again to say that I won't do that again with someone much, much smaller, right? Because there are a ton of super dangerous Batman villains aside from the freaking Joker. Killer Croc, Poison Ivy, fucking Man-Bat. These guys potentially could enact way more destruction. So should we kill them too? Probably. What about Mr. Freeze? Okay, I guess maybe Mr. Freeze. Okay, what about the Penguin? Yeah, the Penguin's kind of a mafioso, sort of. All right, how about Firefly? Okay, come on, dude. What the fuck?
What about Solomon Grundy?
George
well, he's undead, so he doesn't count.
George J says, fun fact, in the comics, Jason Todd came back to life because Superboy Prime punched the reality. Yes, I remember hearing about that. I know that a lot of people talk about Superboy Prime and a lot of the problems therein. But, okay, so, like, it's got so many fundamental misunderstandings about Batman's place in the world, Batman's own personal code. And I understand that this is all about Jason just not processing all of that. And there's also a flip side of this is, does Jason love Bruce? Like in like the paternal sense, like obviously he's a father figure. Because if he does, then he should understand that if Batman were to kill, he would no longer be the same person that he loves.
Yeah.
There is that line.
If Batman kills somebody and gets arrested for murder, then that means there's potentially hundreds more villains out there that he can't stop because he's in jail for doing that one murder. Or if he keeps his record clean, he can keep being out there and stopping the bad guys.
I do like the meme of like Batman meeting the Punisher and just being like, if you kill one criminal, the same number of criminals stays the same. And frickin' the Punisher's like, well, that's why I killed 20 of them in one go.
That's so funny.
It's just like...
Also, I would go so far to say that Jason Todd is neither a sympathetic or a strawman, honestly.
He's not a strawman to the idea of like killing criminals and things like that. The problem is that Jason is neglecting due process. Right? And not to mention, the whole city was in chaos because he constructed these situations in a way that leads to the Joker being let out and having him cause more deaths and, dissolving crime families and taking out their leaders, which I'm very sure has caused way more hostile shit to happen. Like,
congratulations,
it's so
you made
bad.
Worse.
Yeah,
I tried to make things better.
Exactly. And those things are pretty blatantly obvious, but again, the reason why we hit at the emotional aspect of this discussion and not all that other stuff is because that is the core of the conflict. That is the importance of emphasis.
That's what makes this
between
Yes.
Bruce and his son, telling his son, "Yo, Daddy don't play like that."
Batman doesn't want to be like the Justice Lords. Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, that's not to say you couldn't do something interesting examining a Batman who kills, a Batman that's gone down that road. I'm pretty sure there's been several stories that have already explored that.
Yep.
But
I would say it's what makes Ben Affleck's Batman the most interesting.
yeah, he
Not like the most interesting Batman. I'm saying that's the most interesting part about him being Batman.
I was gonna say that that was the most fascinating aspect. It's like that and Ben Affleck's acting. I mean, that man just acts his ass off in that role.
He does.
Yes.
But what else was there that I was gonna say to that extent? Here's an interesting thing that does come up occasionally: is Batman does potentially kill. It's the intent that matters, in the sense of like, when you're fighting someone, and we talked about this, fists can be very lethal. You can, it was in Witch from Mercury, there's a very famous scene where the kind of rough and tumble, like, punk girl of the school ends up decking a bunch of bullies in the face, and it's confirmed that she busted an eardrum just by punching the shit out of a girl. It's like, you can do some serious damage. With your just Batman has more than likely killed someone or otherwise put them into a vegetative state as a result of his beatings. Like, I do not have any kind of hesitation to believe that he has accidentally caused someone's fatality, but I do not think he intends to do it, and I do not think I think the intent is the important part, is that he's and he also doesn't do it to innocent civilians. It's typically people who are active combatants. So it's like, you get into a fist fight, and you willingly get into a fist fight, like, you kind of have there's an unspoken agreement that someone might not be walking out of this fight, guys.
Yeah. Exactly.
Especially if it's the goddamn Batman.
Or a boxer. There was an episode of the Justice League, the animated cartoon. I don't remember exactly the circumstances that was happening, but there was a girl, I think she was a mutant, and her mutant ability was causing, like, a bunch of crazy chaos to happen around her. Like, she was basically warping reality.
You're talking about Ace, right?
Yes, and Batman was the one to finally get to her, and she was like, kill me. It's the only solution. Please do that. And it was like an assisted suicide type story arc. And he did that. So he is willing to kill people in certain circumstances.
Did he kill her, or did he just, like, she was already going to die and he just...
She was already going to die, so...
He just sat with her until the end.
Yeah.
I thought he, like, finished things off.
He had the option to. Like, he was given something by Waller, and he decided not to. He decided instead to be there for her. So,
I think it also was off screen, so it's a little uncertain.
Right.
So it kind of dampens your point a little bit, but I understand what you're saying. Is I don't see Batman as being unwilling. Like, it's all about the intent, and it's not about being cruel or malicious. Like, there's a lot of complexities to Batman's no-kill rule and how far he's willing to go. I mean, we always make jokes about the whole, I'm not gonna kill you, but I don't save you either. I'm Batman.
But
like, I love Batman impressions that just get more and more on the end.
This stream just evolves into us just, like, crappily mimicking Batman.
Swear to me.
Swear to me.
All right. Well, all right. We've explored this. Unless anyone has more commentary on the Jason Todd thing. So
nah.
I think one last thing is I feel like I'm missing something. But this is the point of this is point of emphasis. This is the point of, like, their conflict between each other. So
time and time again that he is a uncontrollable Deathbringer. But Batman just says he can't do that and he wouldn't be able to control himself afterwards. And we're meant to agree with this, but Jason makes such a compelling case that it makes you unable to agree with Batman just shrugging the responsibility off. Batman responds the same way to Injustice Superman. In this continuity, Joker uses Scarecrow.
I understand he's trying to compare it to other superhero stories, I think the problem is a lot of superhero stories don't actually have this conundrum of the sympathetic strawman.
Yeah.
There are plenty of examples, as we've already listed, but a lot of superhero stories has extremities with their villains, so that's not really the case.
Yeah. It's also, he's trying to compare villains, sort of, here, like, the last two characters have clearly been the villains. Like, one is all for internment camps and potentially executions. The other has been literally a homicidal maniac who is just like, why didn't you kill him, Dad? Like, it's a little bit different than a guy who's like, yeah, no, I'm here to save people's lives and deal with a problem. Very radically different characters.
Superman kill Lois Lane and his unborn child. When Lois's heart stops beating, it causes a nuke to detonate in Metropolis, killing millions of people. Superman, after experiencing—
Oh, Christ.
God.
Oh, God.
Yeah, if you need to have this much text on screen, you just need to go back and re-record a line of audio, honestly, at that point.
Injustice is not well written, but in comics, Superman is often depicted as more human than a godlike figure. Correct. If a writer wants to explore the potential vulnerability and corruptibility of his character, I don't have a problem with this. In this game/comic, most of the time Batman is depicted as right, even when he has no valid counter-arguments to the problems Clark is trying to eliminate, and comes across as callous to his loss, even after he has lost his family. The writers then have to make Superman do even more evil actions to make Batman be the good guy. Had Bruce shown at least approval of Clark's idea to impose stricter prison legislation and had been emotionally supportive of him, there's a good chance everything would have been fine. Okay, taking you at your word here, because I don't know about this.
I don't know about this either.
Yeah, I can agree with you, but we've already proven that you hide context.
Actually, wait, no. Oh my God, I remembered. I think me and Pete actually went through the freaking comics that he was referencing, like the beginning parts of them, I think. And I'm pretty sure that he is sort of misconstruing certain parts of this. I'm pretty sure that like Clark was at a super fast track to becoming an asshole.
I remember that being a complaint about this. So
yeah,
that's like a whole arc that's been explored. Like, he's so powerful. What if he was the bad guy?
It has been done to death. Can we please just happy Superman again?
To be fair, Superman Red Son did a great job at it.
James Gunn, please. I cannot wait for the new Superman film. I want a Superman who smiles more, please.
True.
I'll take My Adventures with Superman any day of the week. It's super good. You haven't watched it?
I haven't had the time.
I haven't seen it yet.
I have executive dysfunction. It really sucks.
Shame. Both of you. It is precious and hilarious.
Listen,
the fact that we've kept the podcast going for 16 episodes is actually really impressive. So
very much so.
All of this, decides to kill the Joker to stop him from ever doing something like this again. And Batman, as well as several others, respond as if he's a monster.
Sorry, I'm gonna interrupt again real quick. It's the way he talks, he acts as if the Joker is the end-all be-all worst, like, threat anyone's ever faced. He's so not. The Joker's such chump change. Let's be real.
this is why I'm saying that, why shouldn't we apply the same logic to the freaking Killer Croc, the fucking Owl Man, the freaking cat. Isn't there a Catman villain? Isn't there a cat guy?
Catman was a character from the Fairly Odd Parents.
Yeah. And he was voiced by Adam West. Okay, my bad. All right, freaking Hush. I was thinking of Hush, and I thought of Catman for some reason.
What the fuck kind of misconception could you have made there? What wires are in your brain that got crossed between Catman and Hush?
I don't know what. Look,
how could you forget Hush and his memorable performance in Batwoman? All right. How could you ever forget about that amazing plot arc? where he tries to drop a bunch of people in his own building in elevators, and they all somehow survive the crash.
You know what? It is a huge surprise that this podcast has been going on for this long. I agree.
I'm so happy.
Remember, I'm not talking about later in the story when he takes over the world, executes criminals and starts killing other heroes. Literally, at the start of the comic, all he wants to do is kill Joker, a mass-murdering psychopath who just killed millions of people and his own personal family. And people treat him like he's some irredeemable monster, despite the fact that they never did anything to try and fix Gotham and Gotham's poor justice system, allowing
the
him
problem is, if you kill the Joker, there's gonna be another Joker. That's the thing. There's always a copycat. That's the problem with the Joker. He has a mass following,
I mean,
unfortunately.
they confirmed there's
and
3
if he
Jokers.
dies, someone's gonna just take up the mantle instead.
Well, I'm pretty sure they retconned that.
Did they retcon out the 3 Jokers? Because I actually thought that was a really cool idea.
It depends which
I
version of the which universe you're in at the
This
time.
is why I hate comic books. like I get there's a fun to be had in multiverse stories and the like, but they keep resetting and reorienting shit. It's like, which is the main line? It's why I was so
There is none.
hardline with how Ruby X Justice League worked. No one from DC gave a shit about it because it's just another Elsewhere story. It's just another it's another continuity. We don't have to care about it. There's no reason to go into this because it's not a version of the characters that we care about. It's just some boilerplate like carbon copy version that I guess we assume has some characteristics we might be familiar with. That's about it. It's
Maybe.
it's the popcorn version of all these heroes that we know, and Vixen is there for some reason because
We
I don't know how
were
many people know
actually gonna
Vixen.
do an alternate universe story with our characters, and it started out as an April Fool's joke because all of the characters were actually going to be superheroes, but also competing K-pop stars.
Hell yes!
Emotional girl transformations and everything.
I was gonna say,
Oh my god.
Forget the original story. Just do that one.
Wow.
So before I get to my point, Sky Slashers, there's a Catman in the comics, actually. He is a villain, though. Okay.
Oh yeah, that's the one I was thinking of probably. I think he's in the fucking Suicide Squad.
Possibly. It sounds like someone would.
Probably.
Sky Slasher says, not even that there will be another Joker, but once you set the precedent that Superman has a breaking point, where does it stop? Same with Batman, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's even worse with Superman because he's fucking space Jesus.
So he's supposed to be the perfect Boy Scout.
Beefcake Boy Scout?
What was my point going to be? Oh God, I've lost it.
Uh-oh.
Reverse quickly. What were we
Someone
talking
help
about?
find Raymond find his point. It must be under the chair somewhere.
I believe it is. Fuck, what was it?
And scroll through Jokers. Oh, no, multiverses. That was it. Multiverses. I have no problem with multiverses, but you definitely need to consider why you have them in the first place. They are like exploring fun what ifs is fine, but your main storyline needs to be grounded. Part of the problem that I have with a lot of comics is also like they happen to just keep taking place in the modern day, but the characters like at points either they age, but then they revert, and it's like by this point, OG Batman should either be dead or retired.
Yeah.
And they just don't have that reflected.
He's had like 3 kids and shit. Like, come on.
Like you
This is something I've thought about before, where in like Japanese or Eastern media, they will have the story progress forward. Like Digimon's a great example where like it's not just Tai and his gang of friends. Like the story has moved forward. Where with the Western media, we tend to do the same things over and over again, but with the twist. Like, we're still doing the same Batmans, the same Clark Kents, the same all of it. but will
I'm
like
pretty sure that's
change
why-
one thing over and over again.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's why everyone loved Harry Potter, because like the characters actually grew up and changed along with the kids who were reading the books. And
Yeah.
that was something kind of novel, because most media for children, or just most media in general, have the characters just stay the same all the time and just never change. And then you have, like you said, Japanese media where the characters grow up, or sometimes you have a sequel story that takes place 20 years later with the main characters being parents or being new adults for the first time.
Or you have like prequel stories, like with Boruto's dad.
Boruto's dad and his army of frenemies. On that note, yeah, in Japan they had Naruto, and now there's Boruto. Where here in the West we have the Lion King, but now let's tell you what happened with Mufasa. Don't worry, he dies in The Lion King, but let's start setting up that movie.
Well, we did have at least The Lion King 2.
Yeah.
And that was
good.
actually one of the very few movies of the sequel series that was actually good.
So love it. Great soundtrack.
It's like one of the 3 best direct-to-DVD Disney sequels.
Also, Teal is blue. Thank you, Chronosphere.
No. Wrong. Salty.
Salty, like the ocean blue.
Take that, monster girl.
All right.
To keep doing whatever he wants in the first place. Let's move on from the comic book stuff and onto some other things. Then we'll wrap things up. Throughout Fable 3, we are leading a revolution against your brother, Logan,
Fable.
in order to gain the throne and free
I played a
Albion
little bit of
from his
Fable
tyranny.
2.
I've played Fable 2 and a little bit of 3. I played it at a friend's house. I remember Fable 3 just being shit.
All right, chat.
Oh.
Do we got any Fablers in chat? Do we got any Fablers?
After
Yeah.
getting
Let's see what he
Fable.
presents to us, and then we can call
Okay.
out for them.
the throne, we are told that a force known as the Darkness is making its way to Albion, and that everything he did up to that point was to try and stop it. And then the game makes you make a series of choices, and they are listed as binary good or evil choices. And if you choose the evil choices, people compare your character to Logan. But some of the choices that will lead to the best future for Albion are regarded as evil despite the circumstances of the game. For instance, we are told we can either pay to send the children of Albion to school, or we can send them to work in factories. While sending them to work in a school would be morally right in a time of peace, sending them to work in the factories would boost the workforce that supplies the armies with weapons and armor, allowing you to fight back against the darkness more efficiently and save people.
God, this game is fucking ugly.
Yeah.
This is not an art style that has aged well.
With all the browns.
All the-
Just
Like,
all
when
browns
did
and
this come
browns.
out, too?
Oh, Fable 3 came out, I want to say 2012?
So I don't know the exact workings of how this game works or anything. It sounds similar to like Dragon Age, which I have played, where you can make the quote-unquote morally correct option, but it'll be harder on your story. And it's kind of part of the fun challenge of, do you do the thing that's kind of wrong, but make it easier for yourself in the long run? Or do you do the thing that's kind of right and
very
Didn't Fable
have to
kind of
struggle?
invent the
it did.
idea?
Fable
Yeah.
was the progenitor of, I don't know if it's the progenitor necessarily, but it's the one that flagshipped the binary good, evil, moral choices. And as a consequence, it is one of the worst. I remember Fable 1 and 2 being so simplistic in how it measures good versus evil acts. It's very binary. It has no nuance to it. Oh, it came out in October 29th, 2010. Good to know. All right.
Okay.
Still looks like shit.
It looks worse than like Final Fantasy X.
I was going to say,
Stuff.
fucking Thief the Dark Project came out in 1995, and it looks so much better than this.
Give me
Or
Banjo
Fable
Kazooie,
2.
please.
Give me Sly Cooper, please.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's such a simplistic, simple. I don't know if this is a really good example at all to use because the systems are just so asinine from my experience.
Well, from like I watched a video about the history of the development of Fable, and it seems like they just had a lot of problems with it, that it was almost a miracle that it came out at all, because they just struggled with a lot of things, but they also struggled with trying to develop the system in the first place.
Oh, and I know that the main developer was super ambitious. What?
All right, my guy, #1 lawyer, he says, also Fable 3 story is regarded as the worst of the series, okay?
Damn.
A challenge runner named Nurbit basically goes through why the game fails at even making good binary decisions.
Yep.
So, okay, it seems like what this guy is saying about Fable 3 is correct, so I'm gonna let this one go.
Yeah,
unless anybody else in chat has any counters to this guy.
No, I don't think we do. But I think it just needs to be said that this is a really bad example. I mean, I get it. If you had more examples surrounding it that were good, I'd be more lenient on it. But I don't think I am here.
It's weird because we've seemingly gone so far from the original, very well constructed topic of the sympathetic Strawman to. It feels like he had kind of like half ideas about some of these other things and decided to throw them into this video for the sake of maybe elongating it or maybe just to get his thoughts out there.
I think he wanted to fill out. I think more than it was a case of him trying to be like, I have this idea for a video, and then he made the statement like, oh, we've seen it in other media. And it's happened to me in my own videos too. Like, don't get me wrong. I understand where this comes from.
Going down the rabbit hole of all of the media that is very similar to Digimon, but then you go down the rabbit hole until it's like any anime with a magical partner of some sort, like Mega Man or even Chobits.
Oh my god!
Hell yeah, Chobits! Yeah.
Yo, Mega Man Battle Network is a Digimon clone.
Grand Dark Fang, reminder that in Fable, one of the most evil things you can do is divorce your wife.
I with my Wish review, like I'm comparing like how not brutal the villain is to other Disney villains, because the whole point of the movie is to compare it to other movies Disney has done. But I still limit myself to 2 examples. 2 to 3 examples I think is fine to establish a concept.
In a deep dive, I'm actually more than okay with several examples back to back, but you got to make sure they're all thorough. You can't you can't just be like kind of half-assing it, and you can't be hiding details at times. So it's strange. No. It's really just this is a strange ad. I'm going to scroll back a little bit, just so we can recontextualize.
Sending them to work in the factories would boost the workforce that supplies the armies with weapons and armor, allowing you to fight back against the darkness more efficiently and save people. But if you pick this option, you're listed as evil. Another choice is whether to drain a lake and mine all of its resources. Now, obviously, damaging nature and ripping up the land is a horrible decision to just make for money and profit. But when those resources are needed in order to stop the end of the world, I struggle to see how that makes me evil. But nope, the game will treat you that way.
Oh my god!
Again with this text.
Despite its justification, the game and the rest of the characters still treat his actions as unacceptable, as we see if you choose to perform similar actions to Logan, showing we are expected to side with your allies and continue to uphold your promises. But considering Logan, and by extension you, are trying to save the world, it makes sense. It makes the rest of the cast come off as impatient and entitled for not prioritizing the rest of the world over the promises you made them, and most of Albion will die if you keep them.
Well, if again, I don't know the specifics of this game or anything, but if it is like Dragon Quest or Dragon Age, like I have played, your whole party is made out of people with opposing viewpoints because that's part of the strategy. Like, you can't have the dude who hates magic and the dude who's all about magic on your team at the same time. They're both going to disagree with you in the long run if you do that, because that's part of the strategy, gameplay-wise.
And all of these choices were the same sort of choices that Logan did, and everyone in that game constantly reminds you that Logan was a horrible person, despite the fact that most of the laws he imposed was for the benefit of the kingdom and saving people's lives. Now,
If you're
finally,
gonna have text that is just gonna take up the whole screen,
Just
why don't
ridiculous.
you just plug your microphone in and just add this in?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know
Also-
ADR is a bitch, but still, come on.
Also,
If
I
you're
am
gonna
getting the
add
feeling
text-
that
okay.
you were like really winding down during the end of this video because you didn't even really bother establishing who the fuck Logan was.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You keep mentioning Logan. Who the fuck is Logan? Like, it's Wolverine over there making these decisions? What the fuck?
Like,
This is
I
the
can
weirdest
understand.
Marvel crossover I've ever seen.
You can't just make assumptions that people know what game you're talking about. Like, there's not enough money in the world that everyone has that they could just buy and play every single game.
Like at that point,
Especially
you need to make a
shit ones
whole
like Fable
other
3.
video. Mhm.
Yeah.
I can
Which-
understand
If
having.
you- hey, you could milk this if you wanted to, dude. This is what we're saying, okay?
Yeah.
Like, I
One
can
last-
understand having text on screen if, like, I've fucked
be right
up
back.
before.
Also-
There was one video where I was like, Nora's being charged with electricity, but I don't see where this is coming from, and it was in Winter's glyph, and I just couldn't see it because my eyes are old and shitty and bad. So I just put on screen, this is what it is. My eyes are shitty and bad. Sorry.
Yeah,
fair
and
enough.
I've
I remember
made
that.
text on my screen where I go off on tangents and stuff, and I do that
Yeah.
because the tangent would mess up the flow of the video, so I just put it in text. Like I talk
Right.
about there's a moment where I talk about kami and spirits in Japanese mythology, and I talk about how in text I talk about how there's similar elements about the fae in like British and European mythology and stuff like that, but that would break the flow of the video, so I just have it as a brief text on screen. But
Right.
it doesn't take up the whole of the video.
Of the screen, yeah.
Yeah, the whole screen.
And this all seems like pretty important stuff to cover too. Like
Yeah.
the last two big text dumps we've had, it's like I feel like
Sorry.
you like as he was editing, he realized he wasn't really making as good a point as he could have, and so he's like, I should throw in this text to like better establish what it is I mean to talk about.
Yeah, but that is
This
why
could have
you
been
just
done
plug back
better.
in your microphone and then
Mhm.
you record this point instead of putting it on text as
Also,
on screen.
Dude,
Yeah.
just some quick things you can do to make this even better. Aside from black on white or any white or white on black, however you want to do that. Blur and vignette. That's all you need.
Yeah.
It'll make the
Mhm.
text pop. It'll make the background
will.
sink in, and it won't hurt your eyes as much. Just good.
Yeah.
choice.
Also, if
Um,
you're gonna use text, do the like center type rather because you can tell
Right.
that like the lines aren't centered with each other. It'll just be a little bit nicer.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
I think
like,
that's
I
more
think-
of a difference of like maybe your formatting taste, because I don't mind it being left.
Well, it might make it a little bit easier to read.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think for most people it's easier.
Well,
that
I
way,
think
like,
with this
my
block,
own
it's already
video-
a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah,
True.
the fact that it's
Like-
this many is a problem. Like in my videos, for example, in me and Pete's collaboration response to Lily Orchard, there was a text, the small bit of text during the start of our section when we were talking about Wanda and why a certain aspect of what happened in WandaVision is a good example of a Mary Sue or whatever. And we have this small text that says, we're not saying that Wanda is entirely a Mary Sue, but we are saying that the actions that the narrative takes here is a big example of that.
Yeah.
Of course, and it's quick, it's white on black, it's not intrusive. There's enough time for the audience to read it if they want to, and we're moving the fuck on. That's a good way of going about it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Also, Sky Slasher asks, while I eat this delicious wall of tang.
Yeah.
You can tell it's
Also,
spicy
number
because it's
one-
red.
Also, number
Constantly
one rival
reminds you-
says, again, this choice doesn't matter. If you choose to do all the good decisions and keep all your promises, it doesn't matter. Only one town gets depopulated and you become a hero. Oh, wow.
Mm.
Oh.
Yeah.
that
Well,
Logan was a
Yeah, it's a shitty game.
horrible person. despite the fact that
Dang.
most of the laws he imposed was for the benefit of the kingdom and saving people's lives. Now, finally, we have one last case study, one that has always infuriated me, and that is Dawn from 28 Weeks Later. The story of the 28
Never
Days
heard of
Later
this movie.
universe is...
Oh, you've never heard of
Seen
this
it.
movie?
Oh wait, no, wait. Sorry, I have heard of this movie. I haven't seen it.
I was say this is the sequel to 28 Days Later.
Yeah, I haven't seen either of those.
I have not personally seen them, but I've just because I'm such a horror buff, I've read up and I know a lot about them. So there are problems with 28 Weeks Later, but
is that in a lab, the Ebola and rabies virus was mixed together to create the Rage virus. This virus then escapes from a lab in the UK, where it begins to spread all across the United Kingdom. The virus turns
Favorite film techniques. Vomit.
the individual into a rage-filled killer whose only goal is to kill everything in sight that isn't infected. The first film, 28 Days Later, shows the UK 28 days after the virus was first unleashed, and most of the UK has been killed or infected, with maybe only a few thousand people left uninfected in the entire...
the production of this film is insane because they didn't get permits to film in any of these places. So they had to start really early in the morning, and they basically had to file out with like they get their shots, get their shots, get out within like an hour before like people started actually showing up. So like just off screen, there are people like they couldn't close down the bridge they crossed. It's like insane the amount of like effort they had to put in for this.
of the United Kingdom.
Kudos
28
to them.
Weeks Later focuses on the UK 28 weeks after the virus has been unleashed, and shows how the infection slowly starved to death and the US military slowly started to take over the UK and make it livable. The film follows Don, a primary character in the film, before focusing on his kids, the main protagonists of the film, and we see how they try and survive during the second infection caused by Don. However, before the main plot, at the start of the film, we get to see a small group of survivors when the virus was still knocking around, and these survivors are slowly picked off until there's only 4 remaining. Jacob, a survivor who ran to get his escape boat ready, Don, his wife Alice, and a young boy. During the opening, Don abandons Alice and the boy in order to survive, and later tells his children that their mum is dead and he watched her die. Later, it's discovered that Alice is immune and has survived, with the kids finding her in their old home. Don defends himself and insists that he had no choice, but the story heavily implies that he's a coward, and his children are extremely upset with him for what he did. Except that's obviously completely unfair on Don for so many reasons. In this story, if even a single drop of infected blood gets in your system, in about 30 seconds you become infected yourself. On top of that, these are fast sprinting, pain ignoring infected who want to kill things so badly that they forget to eat and slowly starve to death. During the start of the film, a good chunk of this...
Yeah, but I would imagine that these guys wouldn't know that their mom is immune to that. I mean,
I think that is what it's going to be.
Sorry.
Yeah, his point.
Actually, sorry. No, that's not my point. My point is that like, yes, but they don't know that he doesn't. That they don't know that he doesn't know that their mom was alive. The fact that that's even happened, like, it makes sense for them to have that emotional response. It's their mother.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's actually it's in some ways it's like a better emotionally to tell them your mom's dead and because she's probably going to die soon instead of giving them that weird, that hope that is probably never going to come to pass. Like I can understand the logic there.
It is the fact that he like from at least what I'm understanding of this is that he chose to make a decision to abandon people, and there was no context of like she was infected, to abandon her and also another child to their fate to get infected, or if only the mother was infected, to also abandon the child who may not have been infected in order to save his own skin.
Mm-hmm. It's a complex conundrum. It would have, like, he's doing an extensive job trying to explain this, but this is something that I feel like would only be fully understandable if you really watched the movie to see the nuances of their actions, especially in that critical moment.
I mean, it's in a zombie film especially, the moment to moment can be so different than a description.
Are killed off, either because they become infected or they're too old to fight back. Jacob quickly flees by himself, and so it's only one man, one woman, and a very young boy left to fight back the horde of infected in this house, who are slowly tearing through the house to get to them. Now, they don't have a lot of time to get out, and the child decides to hide in one of the bedrooms instead of running away with them, causing Alice to waste time looking for him while Dawn shuts the door and waits for her. The infected then burst through the door, with Dawn on one side of the room and Alice on the other. These infected immediately try and attack Dawn. In order for Dawn to save Alice, he would need the...
Also, oh my god, like, this is one reason I haven't watched these films.
The
Shaky cam.
is
Oh,
crazy.
The
Oh
worst
my
invention
God.
in cinematic history.
Like, it
I
has
can
its
barely
uses, but
watch
my
this.
god.
What's going on?
My eyes hurt.
Dude, the freaking Hangover trilogy has nothing on this shit.
The infected then burst through the door, with Dawn on one side of the room and Alice on the other. These infected immediately try and attack Dawn. In order for Dawn to save Alice, he would need to fight through the horde of infected to get to her room, somehow buy enough time to get the window open, and then manage to get everyone out of the house through the window. And by this time, the infected would have swarmed around the house, and Jacob most likely would have left with the boat, which would have killed them anyways. Could Dawn have gotten out through his window, gone around the house, and then helped open their window? Well, no, not unless you managed to waste time finding a ladder or something, and by that point, again, the infected would have swarmed the house. Alright, so he couldn't save his wife or the child, an action that still clearly haunts him, but why did he lie when he said that he was 100% certain that Alice was dead? Well, again, he didn't. You have to understand that even ahead of time, if Alice had been bitten and people knew that she was infected but wasn't showing any symptoms, that still wouldn't matter much for the key fact that that's not what these things are trying to do. Sometimes, because of the virus, the infected sometimes suffer from serious bleeding, usually vomiting, which can lead to infection, and sometimes they will try and bite people, especially when using their fists or their legs would be ineffective in causing pain. But most of the time, all the infected want to do is kill people. They aren't actively trying to infect people, just kill them. And if they get infected in the process, that's just an accidental advantage for them. So when Dawn sees Alice get dragged away from the window, he's not seeing her get dragged away to be infected. He's seeing Alice get dragged away from the window to be beaten to death. He has absolutely no reason whatsoever to believe that she found a way out of this. In fact, one of my criticisms for this film is that Alice somehow didn't die in the farmhouse because the horde is so huge, and she made so much noise there's no way she's escaping from that farmhouse alive. But the script and the two main characters...
Yeah, this seems incredibly, like, by your explanation, it actually does seem to be pretty clearly explained now.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say that this guy is unfairly maligned for taking what is a pretty reasonable course of action.
Yeah. Okay, if what he's saying is true, then yeah.
Yeah, if there's not missing context, it seems like this is pretty clear on the face of it.
It could be an interesting plot point where, like, if the kids are questioning him the same way how we just were, like, we needed to see the full breakdown of how it all worked out for us to be like, okay, I understand. But if it's just like, no, I tried and she was there and I ran. Well, why didn't you save her? Why didn't you do that? And then you would have to sit there and explain the full reasoning behind it. That could be an interesting plot point. I don't know if they do in this film or not, but
I mean, if he just said she was dragged away, what was I supposed to assume? Like, that's how I would just let off. She was dragged away. You want me to go into the full details? I can, but I saw what I saw.
And that's reasonable. But like, also, I'm assuming that they're maligning him like after she's found alive and stuff like that. And to a certain degree, I can understand them questioning him afterwards. And then also her being like, you just left me behind.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like, here's the biggest question in regards to this scenario. Is the story completely maligning this dude just because of this happened and that they don't, you know, like, actively address the complexity of the situation, or do they just shit on him for it?
I don't. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know from the context.
Because that's the core. That is the core thing with every sympathetic strawman like John Walker, like Ironwood. The thing about these characters is that the story paints them as being bad, despite the fact they have done literally everything to prove that they have been the opposite prior to that point. Right? Like, that's the whole thing here. So
exactly.
if we don't know if the story. I don't know if he said this yet. We don't know if this guy is treated the same way those characters are.
First it was shaky cam, then lens flares. Now it's overused CGI. Overused CGI has been a thing since the mid-thousands. Where are you?
Also,
lens
flares have been a thing since before the 21st century. Lens flares have been a thing for a while.
We were talking about like the abuse of the technique.
It's still been abused since before the 2000s.
True. But I think it was a renewed thanks to a certain J.J. Abrams.
Yeah.
The horrible person, when actually he's right. What else could he do in that situation that isn't guaranteed suicide? So that, my friends, is what I call the sympathetic.
Oh, you're not even going to go into the fact that I think, if I remember the story correctly, he somehow gets access to his wife and kisses her, which then leads to the brand new infection for the entire rest of the film.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Oh, because he's not immune.
He's not immune. She is. So when she transmits it to him, and he now just it causes the new outbreak. No mention of that. That seems kind of a weird, like up until that point, I can see him being unfairly maligned, but after that point, it's like, buddy, you.
Why would you kiss somebody who you know is immune? It doesn't mean that they're not infected. It just means that they don't have symptoms. Do you not understand how diseases work?
Once again, a Brit just fucking up with a perfect U.S. military containment protocol. Anyway, I don't know how many examples there are of that. I'm just it's just like this weirdly reoccurring trend in some media. It's like it just keeps happening for some reason.
Yeah.
Strawman. A strawman character in a piece of media that goes against the ideologies and views of the main characters and story that we're supposed to disagree with, but the writers, either through making their arguments too compelling or writing the script so poorly we can't support the main characters, actually make them seem more reasonable, understandable, and sympathetic in their actions.
Okay, so let's count this off. What did he show us? He showed us one example, which is John Walker, which is an excellent example. He showed us
Senator Kelly, which is a horrible
bad example.
Example.
Showed us the Red Hood, also a bad example. Showed us Fable 3, which
seems to be a good example.
And then shows us 28 weeks later, which may or may not be a good example because we don't know the full context of like him being maligned by people.
Yeah.
I think it's important to remember the beginning of this video. At the beginning of this video, he said he read that tweet from that other person who specifically talked about John Walker. So it might have just been, in retrospect, he realized just how much of John Walker fell into that category of a sympathetic strawman, and then tried to take that same reasoning and apply it to other characters, but maybe just didn't quite fully grasp how so much of John Walker fell into that category versus these other characters.
Sky Slasher says, don't sympathize with Dawn. He started the second outbreak. That is correct. Like that is the I wonder if maybe he's deflecting a little bit of the criticism of Dawn, because I imagine if I were understanding this correctly, I would be way more critical of Dawn being like, I'm going to go smack lips with my potentially infected wife. Like that seems like a bad idea. I think ultimately, like when he kisses her, he rages out after 30 seconds and then beats her to death like then and there.
Oh,
Jesus!
Damn!
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and
also,
you want to know more about the film? The kids turn out to also have her immunity, so they're fine, but they escape. And like the last image is of the infection spreading to France. So it's like,
it's really bad.
Oh, God damn, Don. You just fucked everyone up there. I don't blame the kids for that one.
Nesbitt raises a good question in chat. Which Senator Kelly? I think that's another reason why a bit of this video fails, at least in that part. He doesn't cite which specific version of the character he's talking about.
Yeah.
Because depending on which version, I might kind of sort of maybe agree with him, because I'm pretty sure in X-Men Evolution, I mean, he started off as a principal, right? And yeah, you can kind of see his actions as sort of like concerned, but going about things the wrong way, right?
Did he
Not
use the
exactly
movie
genocidal.
as an example of Senator
He did
Kelly?
show the movie.
He showed different images of Senator Kelly, which makes this so much more difficult. Like
Right.
we don't know like if he's just talking about evolution or the movies. If we're like except for evolution, every single version of Senator Kelly, as far as I am aware, is a fucking sociopath.
Right.
I think in the movie
So, like-
he was. I vaguely recall him being more sympathetic in the movie. I
Really?
don't think he was calling for the incarceration of mutants. But again,
Okay.
it has been probably 20 years since I've watched that movie in earnest. So,
Dude, it's been
Yeah, it was a completely different character in the movie franchise that did the Sentinel program.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a guy played by Peter Dinklage.
Peter Dinklage.
Oh,
Peter
yeah.
Dinklage, Peter
Yeah.
Dinklage. Peter Dinklage.
Thank you for watching my video, everyone. I hope you had a great day. Please consider liking and subscribing, checking out some more
Okay,
of my...
but hot question. Why is your little avatar you're using here so much weaker than the one that you have in the center? Like, why aren't you using this avatar? What?
Probably didn't have it yet.
Maybe.
Possibly.
Maybe. But this is a
I
7
mean,
this
video has been a bit ago.
and it's his most recent one, and he has his avatar. So maybe he just got this new avatar.
Maybe.
Possibly.
So that was such a weird video because it was like all hits up until the halfway point, and then
Exactly.
just like,
half the point,
I guess it goes to show you might agree with people in some degrees, but not in all. Like we all
This is
disagree at some
why-
point.
This
Yeah.
is why I picked out this video, because this is actually very interesting. It's not like completely terrible with horrible points or, completely good with base points. It has a little bit of both that I think raises points that are worth discussing and talking about.
Yeah.
Hmm. Well
Oh,
done.
yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
overall, kind of an uneven. I think it should have gone through a couple more revisions, man.
Definitely.
I think you could have just dropped the extra examples and just focused hard on
Oh,
John
right.
Walker. I think that would
Yeah.
be probably the
Yeah, that would have been
smarter
better.
choice.
Or if you're gonna use a second or third examples, then like make sure that you thoroughly explain the context for what you mean in order to demonstrate why this is also an example and not just try and like hurry the video along. You don't have a time limit on your videos.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
that the editing can get very, very tedious. My video took 3 months to make at 10 hours a day, nonstop. But there is no time limit for how long you can make a video. If you want to make your video very good, you need to thoroughly explain yourself because people aren't going to just automatically get it.
Oh, Dragon Ball Z. How excited is Critter for Rebel Moon 2 next week? Is Rebel Moon 2 next week?
What?
Yeah. I'm excited. It's
Oh.
gonna be terrible.
Oh,
Should
God.
we watch the first movie together?
I think we might have to.
Yeah.
I think. Oh, you know what? Maybe instead of bad fan fiction night,
Yeah.
bad movie night.
Yes.
Oh God.
It's so great how bad it is. It's
Because-
amazing how bad it
Because
is.
then we can do a stream on it next week, and then
Yes.
we could do a stream on its sequel the week after.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, lordy lord.
It's
And that
so
could also-
long. You'll
that
have to
could
you'll
also
be there
give-
for a while.
I just wish that like he would come out with the extended version first before the sequel.
Mm.
Because like
No, it's okay. I'll come talk to you later.
I like the idea that we just get it out of the way, because I know that one's going to be R-rated.
Yeah, and it'll probably be nudity.
Oh.
Not blood? Oh, come on.
She's already wearing like her outfit for the majority of the beginning is just overalls with no shirt underneath, maybe like a tiny tank top that you can barely see. And it's like farmers don't wear that. That's not what farmers wear. You're lying.
Falls on a woman with no shirt. What are you gonna do with her nippies? It hurts.
It's gonna say
How
like
cheap so bad. There'd be blood.
I have to imagine like the poor actress has been like, yeah, just wear these pasties underneath. It'll save them.
There might be like a bra on underneath,
like,
but like it's hidden enough where you don't see it.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. Like the concept of girl only in overalls, there is something like, all right, that there's something there, but I recognize on a realistic level, not a horny level, on a realistic level, that doesn't work.
Yeah, no, that would be so uncomfortable.
It's like there's so many like different lingeries out there. I almost said lingerie. Lingeries
There's
out
also
there
because she's also standing next to like 3 other ladies who are also farmers, and they're wearing like traditional like pagan-esque, like the long sleeves and the big skirts and the pants and the boots, and here she comes waltzing in like she is a France supermodel.
The fucking feminist hero we didn't want or need.
This is the one thing we didn't want to happen. All right, well, if anyone's interested, I guess that's what we're doing this week in the Tundra. Anyone that's subscribed to the Patreon, Friday night, bad movie night.
Oh, yeah.
It's like 2.5 hours, isn't it?
4.
It's longer.
Oh lord.
What?
I said it was 4 hours.
How long
No,
is it?
it's not 4 hours. It's because like I think combined it was I don't.
Oh
No. Rebel Moon. 2 hours and 14 minutes.
Oh,
All
okay.
right, there's
What
going to be
was
an
4
extended
hours
version.
then?
There will be a
Yes.
longer version.
The
Oh.
Snyder cut.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess we'll have to start early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to start extra early.
All right.
Extra early.
Well, thank you all. Oh, we gotta do the art. So let's
Oh,
do
yeah,
Yes, the
art
art.
Do some
showcase.
art.
Please don't forget the art. It's great.
Yes.
Let's go over here and click this. That's the wrong Discord that's being captured. Let me get sure.
No.
it's capturing the correct one. Oh, it should be capturing the correct one. That's weird. There we go. All right, so first one, Tackle Thief, the new hit show that everyone wants to watch. Derek's just knocking out of the park and apparently out of the
Absolutely.
spine too.
Oh,
Oh god.
can't see it properly.
Yeah, there's a little finagling. I can't really.
Oh dear.
Here's a fun little April Fool's prank, and here's yours too. This does go away tomorrow, right? Automated response. Strike at it. Oh, I'm not looking forward to that. Oh,
Yeah.
Torbeck is not looking forward to this.
Oh yeah.
The Digimon scaring the old lady.
I love it.
It's so happy.
This makes me lose
I
my
feel so
freaking
bad
mind.
for the poor Digimon afterwards. Like I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Also, I love how like her glasses broke just from the shot.
This was status quo man. Is there any reason you're not jumping in to save her? Someone help me! Give me your money. The city's crime statistics are on the low end this month. I'm gonna have to let a few crimes pass.
Dude, this is like Captain Hindsight.
Exactly. Gotta make a new Avengers team with characters like that.
Yeah.
You gotta do better, Ironwood.
Oh my god, this one.
Deterex, it looks
Dude,
so phenomenal.
This is perfect. This is like a perfect representation of this, like, not only
Pretty
sympathetic
much.
Strawman as a concept, but just this conflict in the show.
And let's just
I
mark,
just love.
at Celtic
you-
Phoenix, I watched Ruby XJLA because of your prank. Why? Why would you do that
Why?
to yourself?
Yeah, I thought you would do the opposite.
You made it look too good. Everyone was waiting for the really red Code Lyoko crossover to pop up.
But dude, I love how just completely over it fucking Ironwood is. Right?
It's great. Then we have
It's
the flag
so
smashing masher.
Yes.
Not gonna lie, still think my idea of a flash mob who just cooks mashed potatoes is a better idea. But you know what? Nothing accounting for personal tastes.
Yep.
And
Alrighty.
from Chronosphere, well, I don't have blue in my design. Teal.
I love how we're all just like holding it like it's the conch.
Yeah, it's the Holy Covenant.
The Holy Grail.
Yep.
The worst part is it's actually kind of good.
No.
To each their own.
I don't agree.
Yeah. To each their own, but you should reevaluate your taste in things.
Whoa. Okay. Let's just say, Mark, we respectfully disagree.
Yeah. I will say the second one is a marked improvement. It's one of the better post Volume 3 things that Ruby has produced to some degree, but it still has a lot of fucking issues. Oh my god.
Respectfully disagree.
Oh, I am not by any means calling it good, for the record.
We're not talking about that. We ain't talking about that.
But it gives us our biggest attention boost talking about Ruby. Anyway.
Well,
Oh, happy birthday, Golden Fox.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday!
You're an Aries like me. Yay! That means absolutely
Yeah.
nothing. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. I hope you all had a wonderful time. This was a great video to go through. I hope we could get to cover more videos.
It was
like
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are welcome, by the way.
If you guys have recommendations too, if you think there's like a ridiculous video out there that should be covered or one that's very poignant and thoughtful, we would love to cover it. I know I have a few I have a few ideas, but like those are honestly taking ones that I've already seen through EFAP, and like I don't want to just keep well, we do kind of have a similar format to them. I don't want to take everything they've done and just become a knockoff. Like we're
Yeah,
God,
we don't wanna
Raven,
be
why don't
EFAP
you just
light.
watch things on your own?
I don't make it a habit of
Fucking
going out to
clout
watch
shark.
bad videos.
Well, maybe that's kind of a skill issue, to be honest.
Like Kaiser and I have just like not for any video or anything. We just get into calls sometimes and then just like react to a video.
Yeah.
And then we like spend hours just raging at it.
Then save the video. We can bring it over.
We could do that.
We can. We can. I think I can add those ones to the playlist. Actually,
Yeah.
speaking of videos, by the way, I guess a bit of a plug here, but not for me, but for fellow co-hosts of the New Types podcast. Actually, first off, new podcast episode in the New Types channel. We talked about the very first and only at this point Kamen Rider anime, Kamen Rider Double Futo PI. This was our funniest episode yet. Me, Lone Crit, and CBF had a really great time talking about it. It's a sequel to the original series, so I don't recommend people watching it until you watch the original, but it's still really fun and really good and represents the strengths of the franchise well. But that aside, though, I already linked that first in chat. But secondly, though, my friend CBF in his channel made a brand new video 8 days ago about the state of localization discourse online in regards to anime and shit. And he features some special guests, including Pause and Select, Shabes, or Caribou-kun to some people, and even more that kind of flesh out the topic. He even features a clip from our live stream to the Jello Apocalypse situation.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Interesting.
He used a clip where, and I'm gonna link the video in chat here. Please check him out. If anything else, this is a great video if you want to learn more about the topic. but I think the clip was when Twilight was describing, that part of the stream where we were talking about the change they made to the trans characters' dialogue and why it's kind of watered down and sort of yassified for the audience and shit. And yeah, he used that part of the video in regards to like commentary on the discourse and stuff. So that was really good. Also, new Chronosphere art.
Yeah, I was at the
caught us at the tail end.
Minute. It's over, Joker.
DC Kaiser reboot.
Oh, you wish I was, Joker.
Oh, you'll wish I was, Joker, buddy.
Kevin, you can't do this. I'm the only Batman. Wants to be a female hero. No, Joker, don't.
No,
I'm gonna do it, Batman. Joker, no. It's an animal.
Look at the Lapunny. Look at the Lapunny, Batman. Look at the Lapunny, Batman. It's just a Pokemon, Batman. It's fine.
There aren't any laws against it, Batman. Joker, no. Sorry. All right.
I can't keep.
I'm sorry. You're just gonna spiral into just me and Kaiser. All right. Anyone have anything they need to share before we head out?
No. Oh, well, if anyone knows how to fix a Blu-ray player for VLC, that would be great. I need to know. I'm struggling.
Post in the comments.
Mm-hmm. I was going to do a video about analyzing the fight with Salem fighting everyone in the whale, but I've been very distracted with my Wish review, so that'll probably come out first. And also my design shorts are going to start coming out again. I've had to remake them. I ran out.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, I can't wait. I miss seeing those in my feed in the morning.
And these ones are not, it's not just Ruby anymore. My patrons voted, and the thing they voted on is going to get thrown in there too. So yay.
Exciting.
Wait.
All right, and I have nothing quite new that I can reveal yet. I got a lot of things cooking in the background, a lot of things that I'm writing, a lot of things that are just in early production. There's actually going to be an announcement soon. I don't know exactly how soon. For some auditions for something, but I'm not going to go into detail quite yet on that. Very exciting.
Oh, okay.
And I am also still working on the My Hero Academia and the background stuff, and of course doing this podcast, doing a whole bunch of stuff. We got a lot cooking.
Oh, yeah.
It's just all very slow to come out currently, but we'll get there.
Right.
We'll get there. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. I hope you had a good time, and we hope to see you all next week. Until then, we'll catch you.